Okay, I'm thinking that there's probably some sort of crazy win here for white after rook a8. f5!
F5, look at
What in the
that
world?
move.
Oh, he frees up the f6 square for the rook. If pawn takes, we have check on h8, king moves, rook f6 check, queen takes f6, and then g8 queen, followed by queen takes f6, everybody.
Beautiful.
Okay, so obviously Elvis sees this. He moves the queen with check and gobbles on f5 with the queen. Again, I'm still just super curious as to how he delivers the goods with g8, queen h7, and rook d8 is a win.
Awesome, awesome, awesome play by Magnus Carlsen. This could be the game of the week for sure.
Absolutely the game of the week. This is just bananas. He finishes it off. That was like
Beautiful.
Alpha Zero putting the hurt on Stockfish right there. That was just crazy chess. And as FIDE Master Mike Klein's article set up nicely, Anna, today it's all on the line. 3 playoff spots are up for grabs, and perhaps none more important or more people are going to be watching than the match that you and I have the pleasure of getting to call. That, of course, being Will Magnus Carlsen's team, the Norway Gnomes, who played in the finals last year. How will they perform today, and will they make the playoffs? As we can see the standings right there with me here, International Master Anna Rudolph. Are you ready? Are you excited?
I'm so ready, Danny. I've just retweeted you. It was an epic tweet with the double, triple R's in our names. And yeah, I've been preparing for this. I've been preparing all day by listening to the Disney Hits playlist on
Uh-huh.
Spotify. So I think I am ready.
Okay, well, although A Whole New World is on both of our playlists with whenever we get a chance to sing it, I don't know that we're going to be busting into Disney's song today. What we will be busting into is a whole lot of chess. As you can see on the scoreboard, everybody, some of the biggest names in the world are going to be playing on Chess.com today. Of course, you see the team from Norway there with Magnus Carlsen and Niels Grandelius. The epic performance by those board 1 and 2 from our last Super Saturday event. But there's all other kinds of big names, if I can speak today, Anna. Dmitry Andreikin among them. Jan Elvis, of course, playing for the Estonia Horses. We've got Mr. Gupta playing for the DYNAMITE. Of course, we've already mentioned Magnus Carlsen, and we should mention his one of his better friends, Grandmaster Tom's Cantons, playing for the Riga Magicians. And who else are you looking forward to seeing today?
I think you mentioned most of my favorites. Also, Niels Grandelius playing for the Norway Gnomes,
Uh-huh.
another friend of mine. But there are just so many strong players in our division, and it's so tough still. As you have mentioned, the Norway Gnomes, they are in a must-win situation.
Mm-hmm.
In case they win, they qualify. But in case they lose the match, they might even drop out from the Pro Chess League. So it's all or nothing for the Norwegians.
Yeah, it is. And obviously they're going to be led by Magnus Carlsen today, and probably can't ask for a better chance. So Magnus playing for the Gnomes, probably because of that reason. Even if the Gnomes don't necessarily make the playoffs or make it to the finals, they really don't want to drop into this red zone, as you can see here, everybody. This red zone, what that means, if you don't know or haven't followed the rules of the Pro Chess League closely, those are teams that will not be guaranteed spots going into the 2019 Pro Chess League. So that adds excitement. Even if a team isn't having their best year, they have plenty of reason to continue to field their best lineups as the world champion is playing for the Gnomes, because they definitely don't want to have to requalify as the Pro Chess League continues to grow and things only get bigger and better. All of these teams want to remain a part of it. So adds a level of excitement that keeps everybody on the edge of their seat no matter what. So, all right, well, people are coming in. You and I are a few minutes early. As I said with the tweet, it's not Team Ginger today. Grandmaster Simon Williams is with Fiona over there covering the Reykjavik Open from Iceland. So for those of you who are trying to pick and choose what chess you want to watch today, we're going to have the Reykjavik Open live at Twitch TV/chess. Those of you who are already here at Twitch TV/Pro Chess League have me and Anna for the better part of the next few hours. And then the Pro Chess League will continue to be on this channel for the rest of the day. Anna, we got some people filling in the chat, some regular faces we should say hi to there. Chess Bay.
Chess Bay, always shout out to Chess Bay. She's helping us all the time with all our streams. And shout out to everyone. We will be monitoring the chat on Twitch. This is the channel of the Pro Chess League. So twitch.tv/Pro Chess League and Chess TV, of course, chess.com/TV.
Yeah, and checking on that, there's also some of the regular faces we know filling into the Twitch TV Pro Chess League. So, all right, well, as we get set here, the games will be starting in the next 3 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the matchups. The first one I'm going to bring up on the screen for everybody. We have the Gnomes taking on the Estonia Horses. What you see there in that pre-match graph, everybody, is the stats that our algorithm has predicted based on 1,000 match simulations. Running these things through, it seems that the Gnomes are pretty heavily favored. We'll keep you updated, of course, as the games are actually played, but the live odds, notwithstanding, the pre-match odds tell us that the Gnomes are favored by about 3 games, Anna, with Magnus leading the way. How does your chess expertise feel about what our stats are saying about this match?
I think in reality it's a lot closer.
Okay.
Board 4 of the Norway Gnomes, he's a very young boy, 13-year-old Elam. He has been suffering on board 4, and I think that it's very, very tough for him to score even a half point against such strong opposition. So he might lose all his games, which means that even if Magnus wins 4 out of 4, it will only tie the score. Right. Therefore, I think board 2 and 3 will decide the entire match.
Great point. I brought up the full lineup there as you were saying that, because as you said, Grandelius and Predojevic are playing for board 2 and 3 for Norway, and so we'll see if your prediction holds true that they need to be good today. Let's talk about the other matchup here between the Eagles and the Mumbai Movers. This one is a little bit closer on paper, with the Mumbai Movers slightly favored. Our pre-match prediction says, what does it say? It says... Actually, it says that the most likely result might actually be an 8-8 tie based on what these two teams are bringing on paper. What do you feel from your chess expertise?
I think it can go either way. The funny thing is that 3 teams on top of the Eastern Division are tied for first place. And it's very important not only to qualify for the playoffs, but to get that first spot. So the team that will finish on the top of the standings, they will get draw odds in the knockout system. Therefore, all these teams, the Movers, the Dynamites, and the Eagles, they all have a chance to be the very first in the Eastern Division. And in case the Movers win, I think they have a good shot, though the Dynamites are also playing for a win today. And that's another very important match.
Good point. We'll go right to that on that note. Yeah, the Dynamite are taking on the Stormbringers. We already mentioned that Dmitry Andreikin leading the Stormbringers, Abhijit Gupta playing for the Delhi Dynamite, so there will definitely be a board 1 matchup to follow closely. This one is also pretty close to a tie, pretty close on paper, with the Stormbringers having the slight edge. What do you think about that?
I'm surprised by that pre-match prediction because the Stormbringers haven't had their best tournament this season. So of course they are a very strong team with very strong players. Dmitry Andreikin, Super Grandmaster 2700 on their top board. But I feel like the Dynamite, since they have been doing better and they are leading the Eastern Division, they should be the favorites in that match, I believe.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out if that's true as the games are officially underway. For those of you wondering why the Oslo Trolls are being docked a half a point to start today's show, that is due to a last-minute lineup change, which of course is something that's in the rules. Players or teams are slightly penalized for making last-minute changes as it affects who the other team might have prepared for. But okay, we have our pick, Anna. The games are underway. I have Dmitry Andreikin against Hemant Sharma already on the screen here. We've also got Abhijit Gupta taking on Alexei. So where should we take this first beautiful part of the program as those 3 games, also the third one being between Tanya Sachev and Mikhail Demidov. Pick your flavor, as they say.
Let's go with board 1, and of course then I want to favor the ladies all the time. I have Tanya on my fantasy chess team, and I think she will do great today. Okay.
Well, let's talk about that game. We've got it on the board here. We've got Tanya Sachev taking on Mikhail Demidov. We've got a semi-Slav with an early knight on b4. I'm looking at this position with the typical plan for white to... Okay, she played a5. I was wondering if queen e2 and e4 is coming for white. Try to get a big center and go from there. But a5, an interesting move, is it prevents the typical sort of expansion by black on the queen side. Maybe black was going to prepare some idea of a6 and b5. So Tanya says no thank you to that. Your first thoughts about the position we have here?
I like white. I like the fact that Tanya is playing with the white pieces. I'm
Okay.
supporting her, but I like that she has managed to push a5 because I believe in these systems where the knight is on b4, you want to support that knight with a5 as you have highlighted. Since she has managed to push a5, I believe that this knight doesn't have such a stable outpost on the b4 square, and white has more space. Very nicely placed knight on e5. She's just about to bring her rook to the d file as well, and later on develop the bishop. I think white is slightly better.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think that it's a simple plan for white as well. She did follow up with the idea we talked about with queen to e2. We'll see what black can try to mount to deal with that. So, what about the other game going on? Let's check in on how Abhijit Gupta, Tanya's teammate there for the Dynamite, is playing against FIDE master Ivlev Alexei. Here we have a much different game here with a super dynamic position already in the middle. Abhijit just played the move bishop a6, trying to simplify to maybe open up these queenside pawns. What are your thoughts here?
I just always feel like whenever I look at a Grunfeld type of opening that I don't understand anything from Black's point of view, because the Grunfeld is all about giving up the center and space, and then you try to get it back. So I think he will manage because eventually you can bring the rooks to the d file and break this pawn chain with e6 at some point. And the knight can come to b4 as well. And black has got a c protected pass pawn. So all in all, I think it should be a balanced position, but it's a very dynamic position and nothing usual, at least not for my opening repertoire. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I agree. I think you summarized it well as far as the what the dynamic imbalances are. What we've got here is black looking to break open the blockade. The long-term advantages for black in the Grunfeld are key because even with white having the big center to start everybody, the question is, will white get enough aggressive play? Will white get a big chance in the center, whether that leads to a pass pawn of their own with the d-pawn, maybe sometimes attacking chances against the king. But black holds almost all the cards, all the long-term cards in these Grunfeld endgames because, okay, this one it's very obvious that he has a 3-on-1. But even in other Grunfelds, black typically has a 2-on-1 or some sort of long-term advantage. So you get this nice Grunfeld imbalance where white is going to be aggressive. Look for the rooks to come to the center here. Look for the big E and D pawns to try to do some fancy things. And if black can parry that stuff, black is always better in the long run in these Grunfeld endgames. So yeah, I think we agreed on that. I lost track. I kind of blacked out there. So, but no, I think we
I think you're
we agreed
doing
on that.
very well, Danny.
Okay.
And let's just for a moment, if we pause and we think of what time is it where you are, and you've just had a cup of coffee.
Well,
I think you're still waking up,
I
and
made the cup of coffee right before you and I went live on stream. I haven't actually had it yet. I've got my little Mr. Coffee
you
coffee
see, you
here.
just need a sip. But you're doing very well, and everything that you have said makes perfect sense. I feel like black is doing well in this opening. Not that I understand these positions. And for instance, this move e5 is really puzzling to me because it creates a d5 protected pass pawn for white.
Well, I think one of the points is that Gupta might be more worried about the idea of e5 and the dynamic potential of these pawns as far as what they hold back, maybe even e6 shots at some point. So black is kind of saying, I'm willing to just do what it takes to put the kibosh on these pawns getting any more aggressive. And if he can relocate this knight on c7 somehow to d6, these pawns would have potentially been the only real mobile part of the position. So white isn't even interested in that. White actually en passant to open up. I'm not. And now we know that Gupta maybe made the right decision as far as he's not strapped with this passed pawn and simplifying further white's big center advantage. Maybe it's the bias of knowing that Gupta's a really strong player, but I'm also liking the direction of how this is headed for black. The next game,
the outcome. I'm not sure that I would have taken on e6 if I was white. I like that pawn on d5, but we shall see. He wanted to open the position and claim that he has some kind of a dynamic initiative here with bishop f4, attacking the knight, and ideas with bishop d6 or rook d6. I still like that pawn on d5, but I agree that the knight would have been re-rotated to d6, knight e8, knight d6 would have been a plan in that position.
Yeah, I agree too. Let's bring up the next game that just got underway. It took a moment for the fourth and final game that we'll be covering here between Srinath Narayan and Azat Sharafiev. What we've got here is, what do we have here? We've got an opening that I couldn't quite place as far as what it was because it was a weird King's Indian attack turned symmetrical kind of. Is there an opening name? This our ECO on Chess.com says King's Indian Attack Double Fianchetto Variation. So that's what we're going to call this, and I instincts say that black has done just fine out of the opening here, given that the light squared bishop is traded. This king is open on the diagonal. Not really sure what white has gotten for himself here out of the opening.
I agree with you, and I think that this is a much more peaceful variation than some of the other openings we have seen. It's less complex, but anything can happen, of course, later in the middle game.
Okay, well, let's decide which game we want to maybe dive a little deeper into here in our analysis board. What we've got is options, of course. Let's go back to Tanya's game. Everyone loves to follow Tanya's games here. She is white in a position that we said we both liked her opening. What do we see here in this position? The position is completely blown open. I'm not sure that favored her, given that I see a whole bunch of weak pawns for white and the center is gone. But maybe the bishop pair is the long-term advantage that she has against Damitov here. Your thoughts on how this position has opened up from what it was?
I think the same as you, but I feel like Tanya is still in a better situation since she's ahead in development. So what I see as a problem for black is the b8 knight and the a8 rook. This pawn is pinned on a6, so she didn't have to move the bishop yet. And once you manage to develop the c1 bishop as well, white is just perfectly fine. I don't see a way for black to actually finish the development easily. You can't move the knight because the pawn drops. And also, if you play a move like rook a7, that doesn't guarantee that next move you can capture the bishop. So I'm not sure that it's easy for black to develop without losing the a6 pawn.
Yeah, I guess the problem I have is the a6 pawn really any weaker than the c3 pawn? And okay, well, here we go. Now we're going to have some fireworks. She plays bishop a3. That's a skewer,
this is very concrete. Black has to go back to c7 or a7 not to lose the bishop on e7.
Capturing b5, for those keeping track at home, is a bad idea due to this pin you now see on the board. But let's say that Damitov goes back to c7. Is she ready to trade on e7? Or actually, I think I see the follow-up is bishop to d6, right?
Wow, that's
putting a bishop on a nice square.
I love bishop to d6. And Danny, you're on fire, and you haven't had your coffee.
You know what? It doesn't take coffee to see an outpost square, I guess, at my old positional chess age. But no, okay. So let's say that Damitov plays queen a7. I think we're actually still going to see this bishop d6 idea. No reason not to just put the bishop on d6 and sort of stare danger in the face, because black never wants to trade here, everybody, as this pawn will instantly become the strongest pawn on the board. So I wonder if Damitov just missed bishop a3 when he took on c5 with the queen rather than taking with the bishop. But, okay, he goes back to c7, and I expect Tanya to just put the bishop on d6 right away.
Yeah, very logical. After bishop d6, if black takes on d6, e takes d6, that's a horribly strong passed pawn for white. Now, if you can't take on d6, you have to move the queen either to b7 or a7, but none of them looks very appealing.
Yeah, I agree. And now we're going to find out exactly what his intentions were as Tanya follows up, putting the bishop on d6 and the queen, I expect, just to slide to b7 maybe. At least from b7, black is threatening to take the bishop, Anna,
yes,
right? At least from b7, the rook is protected.
So after queen b7, but even if she moves the bishop, like if you drop the bishop back to d3, you're threatening bishop to e4. So I feel like that pair of bishops and this very well placed bishop on d6, which you cannot touch, is going to make black's position hell.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a strong term, but yeah, I agree with you.
After listening to
I would have preferred make the position chess purgatory maybe, or chess the middle play. No, I'm kidding. No, chess hell's a good description, and I think that the question will be, it'll come back to what you highlighted earlier, which now I'm seeing. I think your point was a really good one, that no matter where the queen moves, this bishop backs up, and there's just no way to develop peacefully without a6 falling. So this knight on b8 being stuck is okay. Wow, Damitov captures, but I think that we have to just start liking white's position even more. Okay, he's calling her bluff. He says, all right, pass d pawn or not, I win the c3 pawn. We'll see what you can make out of Dylan the D pawn, as your former partner would say, Ginger GM. Well, what does he call the D pawn? Dylan or something else?
Um, Derek? Is it Derek? Now I'm not sure, but I just feel like this position is hilarious in the sense that black is a pawn up, but it feels like white is a pawn up.
Right.
And the D pawn, as you have mentioned, is marching forward.
Okay, well, black has to put the rook on D8, I think. I guess knight C6 is also possible here to develop, and although maybe knight C6 runs into rook C4, I don't know. Is knight C6 rook C4 a thing, forking the queen and the rook? We'll find out. But if the rook comes to D8, I think rook C4 is coming anyway. I really like this immediate transfer by Tanya, hit the queen, and then head into the C8 square. Okay, maybe you and I are both being a little bit overly optimistic, but it feels like white is really in control here.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think that Tanya is doing very well in this game. We are slightly biased because we are always rooting for female players, especially me. I'm rooting for all my friends.
Of course.
But I really think that white is doing very well. And here comes your plan, rook c4, and then
rook c4. Now the bishop can even just back up to a4, and I really like Tanya. Yeah, and she does it. The bishop is perfect on a4. You really can see the difference in power between the knight on b8 and the bishop on a4, pawn on d7. I think Demidov has his work cut out for him. So, all right, we already had a result, Anna. Let's pop over and at least just mention that Dmitry Andreikin, despite being the heavy favorite, was unable to get a win against the international master from Delhi. Mr. Sharma holds Andreikin to a draw.
That's a huge result for the Dynamite. So it's board
good start
4.
For sure. Yeah.
The weakest player, in theory, of the Dynamites makes a draw with the top player of the Stormbringers.
And it looks like we may be headed toward. I guess maybe that's a little too much. I guess Gupta did eventually, if we look at this game. Oh, and wow, talk about bishop power over knight. This bishop on f4, such a nice move, a dominant piece, holding the pony on f1, prisoner to the dark squares, everybody. And it's important to note that there's no option of bringing this knight out. For those who don't quickly realize the king and pawn ending is lost, it doesn't take a lot of calculation to realize that the Grunfeld prophecy was true, Anna. Black is just much better here in the endgame because of the queenside pawn majority. So for those of you who don't know that that's just a common structural theme in the Grunfeld, this is why white was struggling earlier, and we didn't like white slipping away the center or letting the center slip away because here we see black just dominant in the endgame.
It's complete domination, as you have mentioned, and this is what you guys should learn, this bishop position. So it's 2 squares in between the 2 minor pieces. That's the best position for the bishop to control the knight. So the knight cannot move because of the king and pawn endgame that Danny has mentioned. This position is completely winning for black.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is going to be a matter of technique. He's from India, not from Russia, but he'll show some good Russian schoolboy technique. No, he doesn't need it. His opponent just resigns. So let's move back to Tanya's game. With Gupta winning, everybody, that immediately puts the Dynamite in the driver's seat as far as this first round. Let's open up the results to remind you that with that win, Delhi does take a 1-point lead. You can see the scoreboard right above our faces. For those of you just joining us at Twitch TV/Pro Chess League, thanks for being here. Go ahead and hit that follow button. The Pro Chess League is not the normal broadcast portal. Normally we're at Twitch TV/Chess, but for today we've got so much chess going on. We have our own channel just for the Pro Chess League. So if you're not following this channel already, please go ahead and do so. As Anna and I have the call, Magnus Carlsen is about to get started. So if you're just joining us, you haven't missed that. Don't go anywhere. All right, Tanya plays rook c8, Anna. We like white. And is that going to be the theme of the day? Dominant bishops flexing their muscles against misplaced knights? It seems like we're on pace for that.
It does look like. Do you have any great chess kit cartoons for the bishop?
We should.
That we might bring up later.
Do we? I don't know. I feel like you're saying you have a surprise that I don't know. Do you have
I just feel like in general you have all those great cartoons on Chess Kid. So I thought that you must have some kind of a very powerful bishop.
Chess Kid is famous there with the awesome animation. So we'll try to find one. Maybe we'll come up with an emote of a bishop dominating a knight there for the Twitch chat to spam. But all right, so yeah, Tanya's in.
Also the Twitch emojis that you have on Chess.com. I think one of them is a bishop. Is that the pin or?
Yes. Wow. Wait. Did she just miss knight?
What's going on?
I was thinking of the emotes and trying to calculate this, and it looks like Demianov may have just gotten away with one there. The point, everybody, is that you can't take with the rook. One, there may be some back rank issues that I'm not even going to calculate, because the main point is that this rook is just hanging. And if you take with the bishop, Demianov is able to capture with the a7 rook, and even as scary as this looks, it's sort of an X-ray defense where your pieces are defending each other through the lines of the other pieces. We call that an X-ray in chess, and I wonder if Tanya just missed this one, Anna, because
I think she saw it. Maybe she missed something for a moment because she just double-checked her calculation. But now she's winning a piece because of this pin on the d5. So very deep tactical motive. First giving up the d7 pawn on purpose or not, or by accident, but it was working out for her. And
sometimes that worked. When your position's so good, you blunder your way into a win. I hope for that. A lot of times it's blundering into a loss.
No, I feel the same way, that when your position is so powerful, even if you don't see everything, I think nobody sees everything. So you don't have to just be so rigid and trying to calculate everything. Your position will work out if your pieces are happy.
I've been hoping for that my whole life, so I'm going to remember that. But, all right, well now an interesting technical question here is that whether Tanya should capture on d7 right away, or even play a move like queen b5 and try to make sure that when she captures on d7, greater simplification occurs. When you're up a piece in these endgames, everybody, okay, but it's tricky, right? Because here white's up a piece, but Black has a couple pawns for it. You have to be careful. Normally, you'd want to trade everybody as quickly as you can, but I'm sure Tanya is trying to evaluate just how does she want to simplify this position. Does she want to keep the queens on the board? Okay, she's deciding she does. And I think that's probably the right decision, because I actually think that White's chances are better if she can find a way to create some chances both against the Black king while trying to wrangle in this A pawn here. We'll see if she's right.
Yeah, though the only thing is that I'm wondering if she can permanently keep the queens if she wants to. Like, you first need to move your queen away from the d file, but if you move, let's say, queen to b5 to keep the d7 bishop protected, then there's still this d file pin against the d7 bishop. So it's not so easy to detangle the pieces on the d5. Maybe the easiest is if she actually tries to trade by moving the bishop right now.
Yeah, she can't take a4 as much as you would like to take a4, right? Because Black can take on d3 first, and then take back on a4. So that doesn't work. So how can she do that? She's going to be calculating that now. I think that one thing to consider is whether she can play a move like, okay, she can't play queen to b1 because the bishop on d7 hangs. This is a little tricky, actually. So maybe you're right. Maybe she took on d7. Maybe she shouldn't have. The other move we were talking about a couple moves ago was queen to b5 to kind of keep the blockade on this pawn and look to take on d7 here with the rook. And I was sort of focused on the general evaluation. It's about whether you want to keep the queens on the board. But now we're looking at the position. Maybe it was as simple as she's got some issues to figure out now, and this a pawn is probably going to get further advanced. I think White should still be winning, right? But it's not as simple as it first looks, I think.
Yeah, it's not simple, and the slower White is, the more advanced this a pawn will be, and you will end up having to sacrifice a piece if you don't stop it early. Therefore, maybe it is really, really needed that she starts coming back with the bishop. So I think of moves like bishop to c6 or bishop b5 maybe, because after bishop b5 you could go bishop c4 and bishop a2 in worst case to cover the a2 square and stop the pawn. Okay,
and she's going to go for that. Now if you're Black, everybody, Black has to be a little careful about running the a-pawn too recklessly. If a3, even bishop to c4, threatening to blockade it on a2. If Black goes even one step further, White can gobble in that pawn with rook a1. So Tanya should still be in the realm of good technique, getting a victory and keeping the Dynamite in control of this match. But let's go to the other game. We also have the game between Narayan and Sharafeyev. Sharafeyev. I want to say Sharafeyev, but I'm going to say Sharafeyev. And here we have another interesting one. Sharafeyev, first sight, looks to be a little better because I don't see how White is defending both the c7 bishop and this c4 pawn. But Anna, do you see tactics that I don't see? What is white doing here?
I'm trying to count how many pawns are there in the board. That's the first thing I do. How many soldiers are there, and
Yeah.
those triple
It's like when
pawns
I
in
get
the
in a car with my
board.
kids. The first thing I do is count and making sure that they're all in there. Yeah. So that's
That's a very
it's a
important
very
step.
important thing.
It's
Yeah.
a very
Gathering
important
pawns
step
and
in your
parenting.
family and on your chessboard.
Hmm.
So how many pawns are there for white? Six. And there are five pawns for black. So I feel like white is better because you can take the b6 pawn for the c4 pawn and then play a move like bishop to c5, defend the b4 pawn, and start pushing the b5 passed pawn.
Okay. Indeed. And so I went right to the attack and not counting the pawns. Rookie mistake, rookie parenting mistake. You're right. And it looks like if the bishop
First
establishes
step,
itself on
count your
c5,
pawns
I think the
and your
problem
pieces.
is, okay, so b5 is also maybe going to be hanging in some positions, but then maybe e7 falls. There's also some crazy tactics on the light squares. I also have the move rook a8 if I'm white, and suddenly we start to see a lot of potential tactics against the black king. So I'm with you. My mind has been changed. I think that white is a little better here, and Sharafiev is calculating. What exactly is he calculating? Something to do with maybe even a move like rook a7 or bishop takes b6. Debating between the two. I would bet.
I think he is calculating those moves. You must be right. I just wanted to look at for a moment. So there was this -5 for the Oslo trolls. I'm
Yep.
sorry that I'm changing the topic, but I realized that our excellent statistic boy, if I can call him stats boy, Matt, shout out to Matt for preparing the predictions. He pointed out that even though the Oslo trolls start with -5 because of a last minute change, actually the predictions changed in favor of the trolls in comparison to what it was before because they got a stronger player. So even though they start with half a point less, the predictions are better as they were before the change.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so that last minute change to get a stronger player, we'll see if the gambit, maybe it's a Pro Chess League gambit. They gambit the half a point just so they have a better chance on the board. A lot of other games are getting started. Let's note that neither one of us mentioned Queen c6 by Sharafiev, which I think is also a really strong move. If the queens trade, the point, everybody, is that white will reinforce this pawn on c6 with a move like b5, and white should still be much better in the endgame. So we'll keep an eye on this. Let's jump over to some of the other games getting started, as there are so many. We've got, let's see. We've got so many. My first thing I did was scroll down and see if the Norway Gnomes are underway. They are not. No Magnus Carlsen just yet. But okay, let's start with a game between the Armenia Eagles and the Mumbai Movers. Here we have GM on GM action just to start. Grigorian taking on Dopade. So we'll come back to that one. We also have, who else do we have here? If you know a game that's more exciting than me kind of running through and just reminding all the fans of all the games they can check out, let me know.
I found one. This is
Okay.
your game. Harshit Raja against Samvatir Sakhayan.
Yep, and I'm there right now. Okay. This is definitely interesting. It looks like white has somehow sacrificed a queen, but is going to mate black in the middle of the board. I'm glad we're here. How in the world did we reach this position?
I don't know what's happening here. It was a Nidorf, that's all I can tell, and that there's the queen missing by mating attack against the black king. Let's see if it works out for
To the bat cave we go, to the analysis board, everybody. Look above us. Let's find out how we got here. So we had a Nidorf, a whole bunch of theory, a poison pawn Nidorf. For those of you who don't know, that's what this variation is, when black gobbles the pawn on b2 and then prays that nothing bad happens. E5 comes. This is all theory, a theory that even I know, and now we're still in theory. I don't remember if this is theory. Is this a queen sack that we should know as chess players, or pretending to be chess players on Chess TV today? I don't know.
I'm so puzzled by this. I'm not a Nidorf player, but I feel like I should have seen this if there was something like this. But the fact that the two players enter this variation so confidently makes me feel like this is theory.
And I would totally agree with you if not for the time. I'm looking at a position where Raja is down to 4 minutes to 10 minutes, and without a lot of time for us to do a whole Nidorf chess theory lesson here, I think we're just going to trust that maybe this was some sort of prep, and Raja is trying to remember it. Here, everybody, he sacrificed the queen on d2 on move 16, only to get the knight on d6 with check, followed by rook f7 and knight takes e6. And if I didn't know any better, it looks like white is one move away from mate, and there's not a lot black can do about it. There's queen takes e5. So So what's happening in this position? This is crazy.
I have no idea. Knight takes e6 is the last move.
Okay, the
So
threat,
the
everybody,
knight
is
was
rook
playing
takes
on
g7 mate.
d4, and that's why he didn't take on e6 with the bishop.
The threat is rook takes g7 mate.
Yeah,
I'm going to do some
very
calculation.
well spotted, Danny. You're sharp.
Yeah, mate in one doesn't get by me. Not many times, but okay. Rook to h7. I think. Okay, there's a few obvious moves. Like one is just the other rook comes to f1. I'm not sure how rook f8 is stoppable, but there may even be an immediate idea like sacrificing on f8 with some sort of discovered check. Although that seems unnecessary. So let's say rook h7 would be met by rook f1. How is white dealing with queen takes e5, guarding the g7 pawn? What is white's next move after that?
That's a good question. Queen takes e5. There's so many options. I feel like if you can just
is white just going to take the bishop back on d2 and just kind of say, maybe white just takes back on d2 and says, all right, now what?
Rook takes d2 defends the d6 knight, right. So all the white pieces are protected, and if there's a back rank check with queen a1, that shouldn't be a big deal. You can move even king f2 or rook f1, and then you are threatening a discovered check. That must be even stronger, bringing back the rook in case of a back rank check. You must be right that after queen takes e5, rook takes d2, and what's black's next move?
Yeah, I think it's a serious problem, because now moving the knight on d7 allows rook f8 and probably other things. So maybe black has a move like bishop e3 check first, and then take on e5 to save the bishop. I'm not sure that that's enough. I mean, because now you've opened up the rook on d1. White maybe even has moves as simple as knight takes c8. No, you can't play knight takes c8 because of the rook. Maybe knight c7 first, attacking the rook, opening up the bishop to f7, and threatening knight takes c8. This position is just bananas. I mean, this is what we pay for, or don't pay for. Just roll out of bed in the morning to see in the Pro Chess League. So
certainly get your free account on Chess.com or become a Diamond member. Support the
right.
Chess.com community.
This is what the premium members support. That's right. Thank you everybody who's here. By the way, numbers growing. If you're just tuning into Twitch TV/Pro Chess League, please follow the channel. Please consider following the channel, giving us your support to make sure that if and when we have too much chess going on in the world in the future, you'll get an email alert that Twitch TV/Pro Chess League is live. Shout out to everybody in the Chess TV chat as well. We see you. Anna is looking over. If you haven't noticed yet, she's observing the chat right there. And where should we go next? We have to stay tuned to whether
we need to stay here. This is crazy. I agree with those of you in the chat saying that this looks like Crazy House. It does look like Crazy House, or Fisher Random, or a mix of those. What on earth is this position? Black's pieces, the a8 rook, knight on b8, and c8 bishop, as well as the h8 rook, are unemployed, now, even though he's a queen up.
Yeah, no, this is we're not going to go too far, everybody. So don't worry. But I do want to note that as we said, it wasn't as simple anymore. Tanya did eventually actually give up a draw in her game against Damitov, and again, this is one reason why, as you simplify up a piece, you don't want to take for granted how important it is to make sure your pieces are properly coordinated, that you have weaknesses to target so that extra piece is even useful. This ended up being a weird position where Damitov was able to hold, likely due to some misplay by Tanya, but also I guess he gets credit for defense. The only other game still going, actually no, there are no other games still going. The Volga Stormbringers did win that final game that was going and have brought it to a 2-2 tie after round one against the Delhi Dynamite, as you can see the score. So we're going to stay on this queenside game, but just wanted to note that the match we started with, all four games have ended, and it is tied. So
Danny.
What do we got?
I know we need to see this queen down and how white is going to give mate, but we should also tune into Magnus Carlsen's opening once again. But this time, it's his opponent that is trolling him. He started with b3, a4. Have you seen it?
I'm going there right now. I didn't see it, but I'm going there now. For those of you who are just tuning in again and wondering why we're here at Twitch TV/Chess, the Reykjavik Open is underway, and now I can see a whole lot more games going. A lot of strong players in Reykjavik, but none of them are Magnus Carlsen, so stay right here with us. Look at this. B3 the analysis board is going to show you how we started b3, a4. Now this a5 line is a line that my uncle Yermo taught me a long time ago, actually. A5 is not the worst move against b3, believe it or not. I know it's a troll bullet move, but in this case it actually has some positional principles to immediately attempt sort of an anchoring of opening the queenside. But Sander says no thank you. Magnus immediately plays e5 and okay, f6 is not a move I expected, but I don't know. I mean, the last time you and I commented on a Magnus game at the finals last year, we assumed he was making a blunder, and we were wrong about that too. So I'm gonna assume that Magnus knows what he's doing here, and we'll see how he plays here as black.
He's certainly very confident, but we have seen Magnus experimenting with openings. Now it's funny to see his opponent experimenting, because Magnus played one knight a3, one knight h3, one f3, all sorts of crazy openings. He was not punished until last week. Last week against the DYNAMITE, he was lost in 2 games. That was a bit too much for the world champion, and I think today he will be more solid and more, well, traditional in terms of his opening choices.
I would predict so as well, especially given the Gnomes, like you said. It's not just that they're fighting for an outside chance of making the playoffs. They're fighting to ensure that, even if this year wasn't their best season, those of you who followed last year know that the Gnomes made the finals. At least they'll be guaranteed a spot next year. Let's move on to the board 2 action here. We've got Niels Grandelius taking on Jan Elvis. We talked about this being another big matchup heading into today. If you're wondering who you should follow and why, just go to Chess.com TV or Chess.com/live and follow any of the games you want if you're not happy with our choice. Not the same matchup, but back to the movers. We've got Andreasian about to maybe actually win down the exchange or at least get a draw here as black. I'm going to pull up a whole bunch of games because there's so many options. I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Sure. I think our audience wants to go back to the Queen sacrifice.
Yeah,
Haship Raja against Semvel Tersakhayan. So the favorite by rating is, of course, Tersakhayan of the Eagles. The position is crazy. We don't know what's happening. He's once again threatening with all sorts of things. Bishop e3 check and queen takes e5. Queen e5 was indeed the move of black. That's what you suggested, Danny. It must be the best defense if you suggested it. But I still feel like white is such an initiative. I would be surprised if black can survive this. Rook f8!
Is this all prep? Is this?
I don't know.
I think we may be about to see something.
Is this a theoretical genius?
It was just cooked up at home, right? I mean, that's where we. Because he's playing so fast, and that move, okay, it gives up more material, and I don't see the mate immediately. Let's go back to the Batcave and see if we can analyze ourselves a victory here. Knight takes f8, rook takes f8, the king comes up. Oh, is this? He's just taking h8 and then playing. No, okay, I thought he was taking and playing knight f7 to win the queen, but.
But in the end of that variation, let's count what would remain on the board. That would be
there's
3 minor pieces for white and
an extra rook for
black. 3
minor
pieces plus a rook for black.
Yeah, something seems amiss here. Knight
okay, it must be rook takes f8 check.
There must be some idea with bishop d3 that
makes sense. King h8.
Let's say king h7, bishop d3. G6.
G6 has to be played. There's no other move.
At the very least, I guess white has a draw now with moves like rook f7 and back to f8. But does white have more?
I trust Sam. He's a good player, and he's from our dear Chess.com team. He's saying that it should be a draw, rook f7 and rook f8. So perpetual for white. Question is, will he try to get more? Oh, if rook h8... Black can also play queen takes h8, so...
Yeah, now the g6 is in, there's no more options. No more options to take on h8 because the queen can take. But I think that white might just be settling on a draw.
Yeah.
I hate that when all the excitement leads to a peaceful result, even if it's the best result. You almost would rather have a train wreck blunder to see what happens. That's the chess commentator in me talking, everybody. I'm sorry.
This is just... Will he take the draw? Now he has to. Now he doesn't even have... Yeah, what does he have for the queen? In this moment, he has only a minor piece for the queen. No, not even that. I mean, he's missing his rook. So what am I saying?
No,
White is a queen and then exchange down.
So whether this was prep or not, if it was prep and all it leads to is a draw, then you suddenly switch from being, appreciative and applauding to sort of being skeptical. Why prepare the whole thing out to a draw? Unless, I guess, there were opportunities for black to go wrong. I go back to this position that we analyzed with bishop e3 and queen takes c5, and I like my first suggestion of knight to c7. Okay, I don't know if it was winning or not, but to me, maybe there was an opportunity for white to keep the threats going. Or maybe not. Maybe this is all it is sometimes you prepare a really dangerous line. If your opponent doesn't fall into the bear trap, you settle on the draw.
It's crazy stuff. So it's drawing 30 moves in the knight order by sacrificing your queen and then launching an attack. I really, really thought the same as you, Danny, that we just hope there would be something more than a perpetual.
Something magical, yeah.
Well, we should wait for the magic on Magnus's board, maybe.
Yeah, so now we're back on Magnus, and here we've got Magnus playing a very, very solid approach, despite how this game started with the move 1a5. The position looking more and more traditional and honestly better and better for black here. We've already got a lot of you playing Guess the Move there on Chess.com. I see some of the top guessers, Indian Lad, Mr. Sheep, Gato Baller. So anyway, everybody who's playing Guess the Move, and if you don't know how to play Guess the Move, just log into Chess.com and have some fun trying to predict Magnus's moves before he plays it. All right, honestly, it looks like Magnus is he brought his A game here today, playing very quickly. I love this last move, h5, immediately pointing out that this knight is, well, honestly, it's about to be kicked all the way back to h1. And maybe black just keeps the attack going from there. This looks like black is about to get a really great attack, yeah.
I know. Look at the knight placement by white. And the one knight on g3 that's about to be chased to h1, and the other on a3. This is what you teach your children, right?
Yeah, no, of course. You say put the knight all the way on h1. Well, shout out to everybody who's just joining us, all 2,000 of you right now at Twitch TV/Pro Chess League. Give us a follow. This is not our normal portal. Twitch TV/Chess is. So if you're like, hey, I didn't get the email alert, give us a follow right now, and you will for future shows at Twitch TV Pro Chess League. Magnus Carlsen's Game 1 is underway. You haven't missed much besides the results you see right here above us. The Delhi Dynamite and the Volga Stormbringers kicked off the day and came to a 2-2 tie. All right, so let's stay here on Magnus unless somebody shouts at me in the Twitch chat about a more exciting game. Let's see how Magnus keeps this attack going, because I'm ready for g5, Anna, followed by put a pony on e5, make something magical happen with the pawns. I think that black is about to show us just how you attack with kings on opposite sides of the board.
I love it, and he's going with your plan. So we have this horrible piece on h1 for white, and the pawn storm is coming against white's king. This is an opposite side castling position. This is what you should do. Just do what the world champion does, not knight a3 or knight h3, but the way he's playing right now.
Yeah, I was suggesting knight e5, maybe sort of saying, to heck with the f6 pawn, but Magnus wants to be a little more disciplined than that. He defended f6 before bringing the knight to e5, but the ideas we talked about are still going to happen here, and white just doesn't have an answer for moves like g4. The other rook comes involved at some point, and the position is going to blow open. When you already look at the queen side here, everybody, you see that Magnus did everything he needed to do to sort of clamp down potential counterplay, and this is going to be a pretty straightforward one for black. So okay, the other big game for this matchup going down in round 1 between the Gnomes and the Horses is the one between Grandelius and Elvist. Let's take a quick look at it. We've got a reverse Sicilian position with an English here with e5. This is straightforward stuff. A totally positional affair, unlike the game with Magnus where he's about to launch a massive attack. So your first thoughts on who's better here between Elvist and Grandelius?
First of all, I love Nils's handle, Grandelicious.
Yep, it is the best. Secondly, I talked about that a lot last show. So
Elvist is a legend. For those of you who did not listen to me talking about Jan Elvist, he used to be one of the best players in the world. So the Estonian team
peaked at number 3, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. The Estonian team has 2 20-year-old players. Young guys, talented, still improving. They have a 30-year-old, that's the second oldest player, and Elvis, the legend, their oldest but best performing player. I think that he will score very well, but I hope that Grandelius can this time put up a fight against Elvis. Yeah, so Niels had a very bad event last match against the Dynamites. And now I think he wants to make up for it because the team lost. He lost many games. He really wants to prove that he can do much better than that.
Yeah, agreed. After having a great performance on the Super Saturday, he did not follow it up, and it was a big reason why the Gnomes are now potentially facing league elimination along with being on the bubble of the playoffs. So we'll talk a little bit more about the rules in a second. All right, well, I'm already getting requests to go back to Magnus. People love their Magnus Carlsen. His opponent hasn't moved. Okay,
Magnus.
Yeah, well, we're getting more and more questions about exactly how the rules are. So maybe I will take a second to say that. So first, the full stats, as you can see here, everybody. These are all the players that are playing for any of the teams today. If you're not playing fantasy chess, then this isn't as important to you, and that's a you problem. So start playing. But these are some of our pre-match odds and everything that's going to be on the table over the next few hours. But as Ann and I have been talking, what you see here in the divisions is that teams are not just trying to get into that green zone, that magical zone where they make the playoffs, but they're also fighting to stay out of the red. And so for the Gnomes, who made the finals last year, this has not been the same kind of season. Here, if they lose today and the Stormbringers win, you're looking at a position where they could be in the red and have to re-qualify all over again for the Pro Chess League. And so that makes it really exciting and a big reason why we're going to follow them very, very closely today. All right, well, back to the game. We have to say that Magnus just blew it open. Let's back up to show the fans the last few moves. He immediately captures the piece on g4 because at the end of this combination, he's able to ensure that he has inroads with a nice move h3. The point, everybody, is that if captures, Black can bring the other rook over. Actually, there's two options. I think maybe even bringing the knight to e5 immediately will be what Magnus does because it guards the f3 square from the rook and threatens knight takes g4 check because the pawn is pinned. And I think Magnus is going to get all the counterplay he needs, even with the queens coming off the board, to get a nice attack against Sander from the Horses. So h3, I wonder if that's a shot that White missed when he played knight g4. Knight g4 was a nice defensive move, everybody. Sometimes when you don't just want to keep staring down the idea that Black is going to crush you. You try to blockade and get some pieces off the board, but at the end of this line, Magnus had one more trick up his sleeve with h3. So this is going to be tough for White.
I love this breakthrough with h3, and as you have explained, there's no way to react to it well. For White, g3 is even worse than g takes h3, in my opinion, because the g4 pawn will drop and you don't get anything for it. So at least take on h3 and then try to survive. That would be my advice to White. I
agree. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, Mr. Kook is getting under time pressure here, and we'll see if he can defend with only 5 minutes. Let's stay focused on the game between Elvis and Grand Delicious, because here we have a much closer affair and one that is still very, very far from being decided. This knight coming into d4, everybody, and changing the pawn structure is a typical transition for Black here because you want this e2 pawn to be a target, and you're hoping that the d4 pawn can kind of keep it that way, sort of clamping down these squares. White's going to try to develop quickly and try to do similar sort of things on the c-file, but something tells me that Grand Delicious has gotten the better of this opening against Elvis, and I have no factual data to back that up. What do you think?
I think that I like Black's position as well, as you have mentioned. I was wondering about the opening and that it's called the Hungarian opening. I did not know that. I know the Hungarian defense against e4, e5 and the bishop c4, bishop e7, but this is called Hungarian opening, that is a surprise to me, to my Hungarian being.
Never trust the Chess.com ECO, but we'll call it the Hungarian opening for today. All right, he plays the move.
It might just be that I'm very bad at opening names, so it's on me.
Yeah, I pretty much just refer to the basic label. I call this in English with one e5. In Hungarian, I don't know.
Oh, me too.
But,
totally.
But it wasn't one e5. It was actually one d5 with one g3. So the fact that it transposed to a structure that you and I are familiar with doesn't change that apparently it was a weird Hungarian opening. But either way, so bishop d2 was played like we talked about. The rook comes to c8, sort of overprotecting not just the c7 pawn, but also preparing the idea of c5, everybody. And I still think that we like Black for good reasons. He's got a very safe position, a position with a nice positional target here, and White has some things to prove. Maybe he'll play bishop a5, try to play b4, and kind of do some work over here on the queen side. I'm wondering if that'll be Elvis's plan. Round 2 between the DYNAMITE and the Stormbringers is underway. Here we've got Tanya Sachdev taking on Dmitry Andreikin. This is a star power matchup.
Wow.
and we've got a nice
What's going
little...
on in her game, by the way, if we have just mentioned her briefly, I don't know what's this long diagonal for white. It looks very dangerous for Andreikin.
Yeah, but he just played this nice move, rook to c6, kind of a
Oh,
strange shot, right? If black takes it, wait, black can just take it because knight takes e7 is not possible. The rook is pinned.
exactly. What's this? I didn't realize the last move. I was already worried about the long diagonal. Rook c6. What is it? A mouse slip? It cannot be.
I wonder if
Like rook c7 was not a move. Rook c5 was not a move. He must have played rook c6 on purpose. Is it the worst blunder of Dimitri's and life? I mean,
and she doesn't do it? Wait a second.
Me too?
What's the idea?
I don't understand.
I am like completely speechless here. Maybe somebody can clip this moment for us as Danny and Anna once again have no idea what they're talking about. I have no idea what I'm talking about here, because how is queen takes c6 not just winning a rook? Sometimes you have that mutual blindness where one side blunders and the other side takes, oh, okay, yeah, that seems like a good move, and then neither side sees the problem.
I know, it's a 2700 playing rook to c6, and if it's a move that blunders the rook, you don't really believe it. You don't even think of him blundering.
No, but I mean, it's so strange. You have the, even, we talk about mutual blindness when you're sitting across from somebody. You could call it like whatever, the psychic vibes of the telekinesis, Holmes, right? But here they're playing from thousands of miles apart. How is Tanya missing the same exact idea? Okay,
they must have visualized the board with the king not on the long diagonal, on g1, let's say.
I think Dimitri immediately realized that he blundered. Now he's played the move rook b6 before capturing back on b2. He's not going to give her a second chance. But I'm just fascinated by this. I can't believe that rook to c6 was just on the board and that neither side saw that it was a free rook. So
I cannot digest it, Danny. I cannot. We were talking about that long diagonal, that it's delicate with the king on g2, and then he plays rook to c6. Oh my, oh my. Does she still have something like, now if you move the queen, he will take on b8 and then the bishop, so you don't win anything as black. I was wondering if you can give up the queen for more material. Queen takes d5, queen takes, rook takes b6, but does it make sense? Rook and two minor pieces.
Yeah, I'm not sure it makes sense because, okay, you've already missed the chance to get a rook and you don't want to...
Exactly. Maybe it's just too late to admit that there was something.
Yeah.
Oh no, Tanya.
Fascinating.
She was winning in the first game and now she was winning in the second game too. And I have her on my fantasy chess team and I really, really want to beat Greg. So please, Tanya.
At least she could have done it for your fantasy team, if not for her own team, right? She could have won and taken the rook for your fantasy. This is fascinating.
She offered a draw. Tanya offered a draw.
Tanya has offered a draw before making her move. That seems like a weird thing to do. She's asking Andreikin if he
I don't understand anything.
She's like, hey, we both blundered. Why don't you just give me a draw? Something tells me Dimitri's not going to take it. But let's go back to the game with Magnus, because his young opponent, or not young, just lower rated opponent, has actually defended really well here. White was under some serious pressure, everybody, when we left this game not too long ago. If we go back to the analysis board to remind you, we had a position where Magnus was breaking through, and Anna and I, being that we were predicting it was Magnus, thinking that black is just going to roll through here, but he was unable to deliver a concrete blow. He does gobble up the g4 pawn and come back to e5, back on this analysis board, but apparently that wasn't enough to keep the hammer down on the king side. White eventually relocates and gets himself a target on d4, dark square pawns because you have that bishop. And now Magnus is trying to relocate. Black is probably still in the driver's seat. This is a dominant knight, and this d3 pawn is a weakness that's not going anywhere. But I think that Sandra gets some credit for not losing yet against the world champion, right? Is that a good credit to get? Hey, you haven't lost yet. Good job, buddy.
Good job. You have survived for 40 moves. Now let's survive for 50.
Yep, survive for 50.
Oh my. Tanya's game is over. It is a draw. She took on d5 and then a draw was agreed. So maybe she offered a draw afterwards. I don't understand anything about that game.
No, I don't think she did. I think she offered a draw and Draken doesn't take it. Then she takes, and she points out that after queen takes, rook takes b6, she's actually just better here. She's got a rook and 2 minor pieces for the queen. Maybe she was just
Why did she offer draw then? She was disappointed. Maybe she realized that she missed queen takes c6.
I think that's what it was.
Really tough to play on.
This is pretty unbelievable, everybody. You can keep seeing the Magnus Carlsen game on the analysis board, but if you just join us, Anna and I flipped to this position right as the move rook c6 is played, and I think on our faces we're both dumbfounded by the fact that isn't this rook just hanging because there is no trick with knight takes e7 check. Look, the computer won't even let you play it because it's an illegal move. Darn Chess.com bugs, right? You can't take on e7. I mean, you can't do it. So Tanya misses a win on the spot, takes on b2. Dmitry realizes he's completely losing and is willing to go bad for a bad sacrifice, but Tanya is likely so psychologically frustrated that she doesn't even want to play on. So,
goodness me, it's still, of course, a good result in terms of seeing the rating difference between Andreikin and Tanya, but it must be very disappointing for her. Such a missed opportunity.
And speaking of missed opportunities, Magnus won't be doing that. He does eventually break through on both sides of the board. Puts on a clinic worthy of Capablanca here, everybody. Principle of two weaknesses. Watching it on the analysis board, we've got. Excuse me, as I pull up the analysis board. We got black eventually breaking through on both sides of the board here with this move b5, and then flipping right back to the king side and delivering the blow. So Magnus Carlsen strikes. The gnomes are on the board, and where should we go next? There's so many games, so much fun, so little time.
I know, Danny, and I've just realized that Magnus tweeted 2 minutes before he started his games, but not about the Pro Chess League this time. He has tweeted several times about his team, and this time he's talking about the candidates. But you must be very, very confident if you take the time, about 10. Maybe it was 10 minutes before the start of the game to tweet about Anish Giri.
Anish Giri not being in the candidates. Yeah, there's if you're not following Magnus or Anish on Twitter, you should do so. They can be pretty entertaining at times. So, all right, well, Tanya, we've had the blunder of the day, but we still have a game going here between Grandelicious and Jan Elvis. That's Niels Grandelius. Grandelius continues to be in the driver's seat, everybody, as we sort of assess that he was. The pawns on the queen side were unable to be hampered down by white. We talked about the b4 idea. I just like Grandelius' position here. I like his positional edge against the e2 pawn. Now bishop f5, such a nice move. Pinning the pawn on d3 so that a move like c4 is a threat. I'm thinking Grandelius is on his way to helping the gnomes get a win here against Elvis's black.
Oh, that could be a key game, as we have said in the pre-show. The Norway Gnomes are either making it or they are out. If they win, they will make it to the playoffs of the Pro Chess League. In case they lose, they might not even see themselves playing next season. So it's all or nothing for the Norwegians. And the board 2 and 3 will be the key deciders in this match. That's our prediction, because board 4 of the Gnomes is likely to lose most of his games. 13-year-old talented boy, but his opponents are just very, very strong. Magnus Carlsen probably will win all his games, but that's just a tie. So who will decide? Niels Grandelius and Predojevic Borky. That's our prediction, right, Danny?
I agree 100%, and I was looking for Borky's game, actually, and struggling to find who his opponent was here, but there's so many games going. Again, if you want to tune in and choose your own adventure today, you can just go to chess.com/live or chess.com TV, just click any of those buttons below the player, and like I said, choose your own adventure if you're not happy with where Anna and I are. Here we go. I found the game, finally, here on the analysis board. I will bring it up on the main board, that being the game between the brand new player for the Gnomes. I believe he's making his debut. Am I correct on that?
It is a debut, a last-minute registration. They registered Mr. Predojevic, former world youth champion from Bosnia-Herzegovina, for this key match of today, as we have already highlighted, and we will keep emphasizing that for the Gnomes, this is D-Day. They either make it or they will say goodbye to the Pro Chess League. Very important match, and therefore they got a new player on their team, Mr. Predojevic, very strong. And we shall see if they manage to actually make the strategy work, sacrificing their board 4 slightly. And
a lot of our analysis and the data, and again, I don't want to overplay that, but if we're talking about the way we assess what seems to be the best match strategy, our algorithm has predicted that stacking your top boards and giving them a chance to really dominate is a gambit worthy of trying out. And let your board forward see if he can have an upset or two, he or she. But the pre-match stats really had the Gnomes favored. The live stats, if we switch to that, are still heavily favoring the Gnomes. Everybody, but we'll keep an eye on that as we take a look here at board 3's game. Borky Predojevic, as you said, taking on the Grandmaster for the Horses.
And as we have mentioned, that board 4, Elam has just lost his game against board 1 of the Horses, which is, of course, a result that we could expect. If Elam manages to make a couple of draws, that would already be a success.
Already would be a huge success, given that you do expect Magnus and Grandelius, at the very least, to really perform well. And here, Predojevic is... looks to be in the driver's seat. Yes, we have Obscode bishops, and that sometimes can mean a helpful defensive idea for the defender when you can control a color complex that your opponent can't challenge. But here I really like the d-pawn. The threat is rook to c6 here for white, I think. Maybe white can even just kind of perform a little surgery on the light squares here. Anna, move like queen a6, try for queen a7, grab the 7th rank. Look like maybe there's some ways here for white to kind of inch his way in here. What do you think?
I love your description about the surgery and the light squares.
You got to be intricate. Like have you ever played Operation? Like, bzz, bzz.
It's a really visual picture that you painted about this position. And I counted the soldiers. That's what I always do at first sight. So the d5 pawn is an extra pawn for white. Great news for Borky.
Yeah, so black is going to try to get the queens off the board here, everybody, precisely because he's afraid of his surgeon opponent. You don't want white to kind of inch the way in where the light squares become a huge problem and you can't defend and your bishop is sort of a helpless bystander. This is a nice move, queen to b4, because it kind of forks the queen on b5 and the bishop on e4. I think that forces a queen trade. Am I right that that's forcing a queen trade? Maybe? Yes?
It is forcing, I believe, because if you play queen d3, well, maybe he can still play queen d... No, well, I don't like
maybe there's f...
It just looks weird.
I think maybe white will play rook c4 here, allow the queen trade on b5, but kind of remain in the driver's seat as far as dominating the only open file and still having this extra d-pawn. But I do agree that if the queens come off the board, that seems to help black's defensive chances.
He's taking on b5.
He takes on b4, and now what's the follow-up? Maybe rook a7? Is he going to try to infiltrate to the 7th rank?
Yes, I like the idea about rook a7 to double rooks in the 7th rank, or rook to c6 and try to go rook f6. Maybe that's a bit too much, and you can come back to d6 if you want to block my idea of swinging the rook to the king side. I'm not sure that the rook is nice on f6, but I want to put pressure on the f6 pawn, so it's either by doubling on the 7th rank or bringing the rook to f6.
Yeah, and he's got to find an idea quickly, because the longer you give the defender to coordinate, especially in Obscode bishop ending, the better chances he can just grip all the dark squares, and that extra pawn is just running up against a brick wall. Shout out to everybody in the Twitch chat. A lot more of you coming in now. Crypto Chess, Chess Bay, Pepe, the Communist, great name, Jones777. Everybody who's here, if you're just tuning in to Twitch TV/Pro Chess League for the first time, give us a follow just so you're notified for future shows when we do have a little bit too much chess going on. The Chess.com team, led by Peter Dawkers and Simon Williams, are on site in Reykjavik, providing commentary there, which is live at Twitch TV/chess, if that's also something you're looking for. What's up, Braden Laughlin, New Jersey Greg, everybody, thanks for being here in the Twitch chat. Thanks to everybody in the Chess TV chat as well. And welcome to the Pro Chess League. The last week of the regular season. This is it. The playoffs are on the line.
The playoffs are on the line in the life of the Norwegians, at least for the Norway Gnomes.
No, I think you said it best. The life of all Norwegians is on the line today. I love that you just said that. That's a good Freudian slip there.
I know. But the problem about chess is that when you're playing, the game really feels like it's your life. So it's all about living or dying at the board. It literally feels like that. Well, how many times have you felt like that about a game that you lose? That it feels worse than an accident, and it shouldn't be that important in terms of your entire life, of course. But during the game,
I still go cry in my hotel room if I lose. That's why I don't play chess anymore, because I'm a big crybaby. All right, but somebody might cry after this game. Grandelius, who I believe has been better most of the game, now only has 20 seconds left. Anna, let's go back to that game and see if we can catch a photo finish.
Sure.
We've got we've got Elvis seems to have defended the worst of it, and somehow he managed to be up a pawn. He has an open king, yes, and there's threats of queen g3, but I don't see a concrete advantage for black, although f5 is a nice move. Notice, everybody, that f5, queen f4 was not possible because black could have traded and then gobbled up the b4 pawn. That was the idea, I believe. So now Grandelius is going to see if he can muster an attack without before he loses on time with only 10 seconds left. Let's not go anywhere else. I want to catch a photo finish. This is, I get to live vicariously through chess players and pretend that some chess games still matter in these moments. So what's going to happen here? I'm nervous. I'm nervous
myself, and I'm trying to imagine Niels and his heart rate in this very moment with 11 seconds and everything on the line. But I feel like he's in control. Oh, bishop h6. Maybe he's not in control.
Bishop h6. Okay, he can't take it because there was mate on h8, everybody. That would have been nasty.
Okay, king h7. No panic. No panic. It was just a check.
Just a check.
Look at the f1 bishop now. After the trade of bishops, the bishop that remains on the board for white is a horrible, horrible piece.
Okay, I love black now, right? He did manage to get through. He's probably got at least a draw, but will he have more than that? Like you said, the bishop on f1 is a horrible piece, but Grandelius is not going to take a draw, I don't think. I think he's playing a little Russian schoolboy tickle there. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It was more than Russian schoolboy tickle. What he's got there is, the reason I say that, everybody, is because every Russian schoolboy knows you repeat moves. Grandelius decides he has nothing more than repeating moves like f4. Can we analyze that? What if black had played f4? He's giving up the b5 pawn. Then he could have played queen g3 check, but I guess the issue is there's just no concrete follow-up here, and he doesn't want to risk it.
This feels a bit weird. I really thought that he would play on, but maybe he thought that the risk was too much. And in a match where it's all or nothing, if you are not sure about the decision, I think they will prefer something that is stable. So here a draw is okay. You could risk in order to win, but then you can also lose. Right. And a loss in a match
with that,
is just double points.
The score came to 1.5 apiece, which means this game between Prdojevic, their last second free agent acquisition for the Gnomes, is now he now was also in a position where he needed to win if they were going to be on top. He's unable to do so. Another obstacle bishop draw, which we kind of said might happen. I wonder if he regrets all the way back in that moment where we said queen b5, allowed queen b4, and the queens came off the board. I wonder if that was actually a bigger mistake in regards to his winning chances than we first realized. The other team from Norway, who we haven't given much attention to so far, is dominating Riga right now. They finished with a three-game sweep, despite sacrificing that draw due to the last-minute lineup change. It looked like our stats are correct right now, that they've increased their match chances as they're really doing well. When
I was talking about how it's about the life and death of Norwegians, I also thought about the other team, the Oslo Trolls. There are 2 Norwegian teams in the Eastern Division, but the Trolls, even with a victory, they are out of the Pro Chess League. So they will need to play a qualification tournament in order to try to get back to next year's Pro Chess League.
Yeah, and if we bring up the other games still going, I've already brought up the one between the man who barely survived the queen sacrifice in the first game, but now he's taking on another player from the movers. Of course, there's a million other games also going. We will again, if you want to follow a different game yourself, just head on over to Twitch to Chess.com live and choose your own adventure. So, all right, what other games are underway at this point in the second round? Here we go. A lot of games going on right now on Chess.com because of all the Reykjavik games. Here's the man who sacrificed his queen, Raja, now black, against Grandmaster Andreasson. Okay, another game going on, but I want to find some troll games. I feel like with the big sweep in round one, we owe them some attention here.
I think they have just finished their first round.
But they just started here. I've got one up here between FIDE
Master you got them already.
Mihalov and Grandmaster Plot. We're going to find some others here. This is an interesting one, actually, but let's see if we can find some other games. going down. Grandmaster Tom Cantons, the friend of Magnus Carlsen, well known here, trying to help Riga bounce back. He has the white pieces against FIDE Master Haug. And I really like White's position here. Dominance of the d-file and not a lot of moves for Black. I think White is choosing between nice and fun ideas like h4 and h5 or try to be a little more direct in your domination of Derek's home over there, Derek the d-file. Okay, so there we go. Another one going down here. Grandmaster Urkadal versus Women's International Master Anna Cantane. A Benoni. I prefer salami, not bologna, but okay. That's only the first time you're going to hear that horrible pun joke today. All right, we've got...
I thought it was spontaneous. I didn't know that it was from your encyclopedia.
No, it's from my repertoire. The bologna is something that I'm not a big fan of. Ori Kobo playing for the Trolls, taking on another player from Riga, International Masters Wardon. There's a lot of interesting games here. So let's give this matchup some love. We know Magnus Carlsen will be starting soon, and everyone's going to be yelling at us to go there. But let's go to this game here between Kobo and Zwardon, because we just saw the move G4. And we've got this crazy position of the knight on c7, forking, but he doesn't even want it. What is going on here? Now White is going to play. White's going to play
F5. So it's Kobo against Zwardon. I'm trying to catch up as well.
Poor little Greenie is Ori Kobo's name. Another great user.
Poor little Greenie. I have him.
Yeah, so he just played queen to d7. I thought that we would see f5, everybody. And this is kind of an instructive little pawn trick if you don't know. The idea is you sacrifice again with the idea that g5, you've officially taken away all the squares of the knight. Maybe White just wasn't interested in potential piece sacrifices, given that he's already winning the bishop on d7 in the main game. But this is going to be a crazy one here. I have a hard time not just liking Kobo's position. He is up a piece, but his king is wide open, and maybe that's going to be a problem as the game goes on. What do you think here?
I like having a piece up. That's the thing about White's position that we love.
Right? I mean, we like pieces. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and I also think that this a8 rook is trapped. So I feel like White is going to be basically a rook up. You can give up development for a rook.
Yeah, a rook is
don't learn from
normally...
us, but yes, in this case, the problem for Black, I believe, is that yes, even though the White king is still on e1, the queen on b8 is also hidden. If you had that queen somewhere in direction of the e4 square, that would be great, or on the d file, but it's nowhere near the White king.
Yeah, I agree, and I am drinking a dark roast, Mr. Hightower. That's right, it is a dark roast, which I know has less caffeine than the blonde roast, but you know what, to each his own. So many emojis actually available here. I was trying to find the right emoji for the fork, given that we didn't go for a fork, but then I couldn't find it. Where's my fork emoji?
I will also now join the
emoji spam. I'm gonna go with some gnome heads. I don't know why.
I'm gonna go with the fork
I'm looking
and
for
the
the
rook that
games.
I'm gonna eat on a8. That rook is mine. You see, these are the forks I'm gonna eat the rook with. You can create all sorts of artistic
I love
conceptions.
it. Yeah, it's a statement every time you jump into Twitch chat. All right. Well, as I said, I went with a gnome spam because I was looking for Magnus Carlsen's next round, which is finally underway. He's now taking on Mr. Jan Elvist. So out of the frying pan into the fire if you're the Estonian Grandmaster. You barely survived Niels Grandelius, and now you get Magnus Carlsen. So we'll keep our eyes closely tuned to this one. Let us know in the chat, either actually the Twitch TV/Pro Chess League chat, now that the Chess TV chat is officially covering the Reykjavik Open. So keep us posted if there's other games you want to switch to. Board 3, also going to be a big one. Here we've got Borochovsky taking on Predojevic in a battle of the horses versus the gnomes. Who else do we got here? So many games. Who else do we have here?
Magnus Carlsen playing in a very traditional way with a slight twist. So he pushes e4, but then he goes for a sideline with b3. I think this is what we expected mainly. So he doesn't go for the most theoretical positions, but he also doesn't try something very, very dubious in a decisive match.
Yeah, and this is sort of this is unorthodox, but it's not an unknown line, right, for white. This is an idea that has some principles to it. This idea of playing b3 in the Sicilian, everybody, when you consider that, okay, black is going to be aggressive on the queen side in every Sicilian and try to control the dark squares with pawns on c5 and d6. And b3 is a move that puts the bishop directly in opposition to that, challenging the long diagonal, and in some cases really irritating for black, because whenever you get the bishop on this diagonal, Anna, that prevents the dragon, right, as far as some Sicilians. So this b3 line is
b3.
Yeah,
I used to play b3 on move 2 against the Sicilian, and I loved it for a while. I think it was my main go-to anti-Sicilian for about a year, until I got crushed in one game.
Well, yeah, Magnus not controlling anymore. We see DeRouche using the Chess.com what emoji. One of my favorite. Chess.com what is the Magnus head.
Nice.
But no, this is a principled line. So for those of you who think Magnus is still purposely messing with us with weird openings, I think he has very clear intentions here. I expect queen e2 or d3 on this board. Probably queen e2. Maybe he goes for that. Be a little flexible, because you may want to even play d4 in one move in some positions. Now here's the question. Is he going to go all in Rekharovka, Delina Rekharovka here, queenside castles, or is he going to play, a slightly slower approach and castles short? You have 5 seconds to bet. I'm going to bet castles long. That's my bet.
Short. I think for Magnus that would be the move, but both look actually quite appealing in this position. It's a question of future plans. Oh, he goes with your plan. You guys did right, Danny.
It's not because I get any credit of making a good chess move. It's because I get credit for predicting Magnus, and I think that he wants the whole thing. He wants to get in a sharp position ASAP, and he's willing to risk it.
True.
But Elvis is a strong chess player, and he's not going to be afraid. He castles short and says, "All right, well, if the position opens up, black has the bishop pair." But I like Magnus's position here. We'll keep an eye on it. Grandelius is in a position against the one that the board 4 that Magnus just took care of last round for the horses, and I think Grandelius is in the driver's seat because somehow this bishop on e5, Anna, has gotten itself outside of the fianchetto, and I think black is going to regret that as soon as moves like f4 come in and start trapping that piece.
Exactly. It doesn't have many squares. f5 seems to be a logical move to create more space for that bishop, but that also frees the g5 square where this knight has just jumped to.
Shout out to Grandmaster Benjamin Feingold. Thanks for joining us here
Ben
in the Twitch chat.
And we hope that he's recovering. I think he's already fine.
Feeling
but
better. Yeah.
I heard that last week he was not feeling so well. So shout out to Ben for his great streams and also for a quick recovery.
You see in this position, everybody, black, if we go to the analysis board here, black played f5 precisely because he was worried about moves like f4, and this bishop has run out of options. But now, as Grandelius immediately puts the knight on g5, you start looking at light square tactics as the new problem that black is going to have here on the king side, whether that's queen d5, bishop d5, or just moves like f4 and e4 and just blow it open. I expect e4, maybe f4 first and then e4, I'm not quite sure, but I expect Grandelius to be really aggressive on the king side here.
I think you're right. The only thing about f4, e4, I like it, but there's one thing that I don't like about e4, and that's that it opens up the c8 bishop's diagonal after f takes e4. So maybe what he could do is to wait a little bit with those pushes, and once you try to develop the c8 bishop, then you go for e4.
Yeah, I like it. And queen d2 is also a disciplined move because it prepares a move like rook d1. And the other long-term problem that black has here is actually the d6 pawn, right? You played the move c6. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right, everybody? And this is a good instructional moment for chess because you recognize there's a problem, and so black tries to fix it with the move f5. Well, now the light squares are a problem, so he tries to fix that problem with the move c6. Well, now d6 is a problem because it no longer has the protection of the pawn on c7, and so I think one testament to strong grandmasters is they never get married to one way of winning, right? They allow their opponent to make other problems for themselves, and if they need to pivot their plan to take advantage of a new weakness, they will, and that's something we can all learn from, us lowly international masters, right, Anna? We can learn from these things.
I agree. I totally agree with you, and that was very well said, Danny, that you should be very flexible about your plans. Don't just decide what you go for and then go blindly trying to carry it out. Every move changes the position slightly, or in a more
First of all,
more seeable way, like c6 changes the pawn structure, f5 has changed the pawn structure. All those moves start protecting a square and leave behind other squares. They change the entire way you look at the position. So it's very, very good to think of it more as a flexible plan. You change it as it goes.
We sorry, I'm laughing at the Twitch chat making fun of me that I made a science reference, particularly Robert Hess, right? Not all of us went to Yale, Bobby.
Oh, shout out to Robert. We all love Robert,
not
and
all
we
of
also
us,
love...
Not all of us went to Yale, but some of us, I mean, I don't know any science. I just know famous quotes, right? I'm not a chess player, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and now I'm on Chess TV. So anyway, I was smiling at the chat, and the fans saw it. But okay, let's focus on where's Neil's going to put this knight, but I think I already see some comments coming psychically because I can predict the future that they want us to go back to Magnus's game. So let's go check on, what's actually becoming a super dynamic affair. We got to stay here. E5 by Magnus says, I'll trade you my rook for a bishop and some attacking chances. Okay.
I love that. I love that. This is the kind of Magnus that we see often online, but not in these super tournaments, because his opponents don't really allow these kind of attacking potential positions. So oftentimes we see that the most impressive tactical variations were played out in their heads, and then they show it in the post-mortem.
Right.
Now in the Pro Chess, well, what is great about the Pro Chess is that we actually get to see it happening on the board. There's a bigger rating gap between the players.
I just realized I lost my fork and Chess.com what emoji because my subscription to Chess expired. I have to re-subscribe. Shame on me. Shame on me. But I'm still subscribed to just about everybody else, and I'll prove it with some chess bra spams. But okay, I was looking for an emote to relate with the fans there. But all right, let's.
Danny, you're the vice president.
I know. Shame on me. I just haven't watched a show in a while. I've been hiding in my cave, avoiding Twitch, and I just didn't realize that my sub had gone away. So maybe somebody can gift me a sub real quick.
Oh my!
All
I
right.
got a 3-month subscription. I subscribed when you were commentating with Alexandra, and then you just read out my name, and you didn't realize it was me. Yep. So that was a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sometimes I lose myself in the chat, but all right. Elvis is still thinking here, so let's calculate here. Let's go to the Batcave. What is going to happen here between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Elvis? Let's analyze the most obvious line first. Bishop takes h1. Can black take it? White's going to take on f6. Now you have to save the bishop because you don't want to give up 2 pieces for the rook, everybody. And if Elvis retreats that bishop, all kinds of tactics, whether you want to take on g7, take on e6 even. Honestly, that looks really nasty just to take on e6 with tempo. And then one line, Anna, after taking e6, just to show a fun line, if the queen moves, there would be f7 check, king takes, knight g5 check, followed by flipping the queen to the h-file. And that's going to be dirty on the h-file there. So that's one line to show what Magnus might get. And after taking on h1, that's what we have. I wonder if we're going to get that exact line just by sheer luck of a line we chose first. I really like this idea of f7 coming, and just how
I think we might just see that it's a very logical variation. The bishop on h1 is hanging, and you need to do something. You either move the bishop or you start attacking other pieces like e5 or b4 are other options, but this is a crazy position, and Jan Elvis is also under slight time pressure.
Yeah, he's already taken much more time than Magnus. So let's see. Let's now look for ways that it doesn't work. Right. First thing a good chess player does is not actually assume their combination works, everybody, but assume it doesn't work and make sure you're all actively looking for your opponent's defensive chance. It's a hard psychological thing for young chess players to do because they always want to assume they're brilliant. But the more you screw up chess games, the more you realize that you're not brilliant. That's a pro tip. All right, so let's...
Except if your name is Magnus Carlsen.
That's right. I guess that's true. So let's say the bishop... Okay, so what else can black play here? I think you have to save the bishop because I just don't believe that... Okay, he may go for something like this, but that just means he knows he's losing because if white has 2 pieces for the rook and chances of attacking, I think we just love Magnus's game. So I'm going to go back with the move retreating. go back to my line with knight takes e6, and I don't see many options here. I love this idea of sacrificing the f7 pawn to make sure we can move this knight to g5 with check. And I don't know. I'm just saying we might have predicted a great combo by Magnus there.
I love it. I think this position has a great potential. In terms of how difficult it is to defend this without knowing engine evaluations, because we are not going to check in engine evaluations. If you guys are interested in that kind of thing, you can check it yourself on Chess.com. But this is a game between two humans, and from a human point of view, this is a massive attack for white. Black is low on time, and he has to face several threats. Bishop to b7, he's going back with the bishop, and now we could see the line that Danny has mentioned, knight takes e6.
Yep.
I love it.
No, and yeah, we do. We took away the evaluation in bar. It's something that we do have the ability to do in a lot of these broadcasts. But for those of you who want to turn on an engine in games you observe and see just how much these players are messing up chess, you can do that. But I think it's a little more instructive when we focus on what's happening between the players and let the engines tell us how we're wrong later. Those of you who saw me switch out, that's right. Double dark roast, double the fun. Danny's going to be a little hyped up on coffee at the end of this show. I'm gonna full disclosure. I love this idea of knight takes e6 though, Anna, and not just because we saw it coming. It seems like a really straightforward plan, especially when you can follow it with this cute little f7 tactic. So the one other issue would be if you take e6, everybody, is there some idea that Elvis can take advantage of the fact that this knight is temporarily pinned to Magnus's queen on e2? I don't think so, because the knight is protecting the queen, which means if you did something like take f6, you can't even do it because Magnus can just gobble the queen back and win the rook on e2. So there's not really an obvious way to deal with the queen being attacked. But okay, Magnus proves me wrong. He has more dangerous intentions in mind. He takes on g7. Why, Magnus? Why didn't you take on e6 with
I like
queen?
your idea, but I also like f takes g7 a lot. It means that the king is very vulnerable on g8. You can never take on g7. The bishop on b2 will become a monster if you remove that g7 pawn.
Yep.
But if you don't take it, that means that there are ideas with queen h2, queen h8, for instance.
Josh is right in the Twitch chat that my intern brought me a cup. We'll let the intern remain nameless at this point. Small inside joke for Chess.com staff members, but yeah, a little too much coffee could be. In fact, maybe you shouldn't have brought me that coffee, intern. But all right, so f takes g7. I guess one thing about that is that it really highlights, Anna, like you said, that white doesn't need to be in a rush here. You've got this potentially super dominant bishop on b2. There is no dark square counterpart for black. There's an obvious threat of queen h2, just flipping over to the h-file, and let's get jiggy with it over there, and all of a sudden, all kinds of threats. So I guess the main thing I say is maybe now black can move the knight. Okay, he does it before I can click. Mm-hmm. He moves the knight to c5, which I like it. It opens up the queen to defense. It brings a knight into a square where it guards e6. I'm curious what Magnus's follow-up is here and whether he can prove that his line is better than my line with knight takes e6. We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see that. My guess would be that he would try to bring his heavy pieces to the h-file. I don't like the fact that the bishop is taking away the h1 square from the rook. That's the only thing. So queen h2. Oh, knight takes b5. What's going on?
What in the world?
He was an exchange down already, and now he's sacrificing a piece. What are we missing?
He's threatening queen h8, I guess. Followed by... Okay, wow. Crazy tactics, but let me show you the line I just calculated. The queen moves. We go to h2. Mm-hmm. Okay. If he takes the knight on b5, we have queen h8, king f7. Can you queen on g8, and then play queen h7? No, it's not mate. Okay, queen f6 and queen h7 are both moves, but there's no immediate mate follow-up. So what is Magnus... Okay, I guess the other thing is if the queen moves, he can take on d6 first, right?
Oh, right. And then queen h2 threatening mate on h8. You cut the f7 square from the king, the escape route.
And if rook d8, queen h2 takes d6, queen h8 check, king up to f7, but I still don't see a mate for Magnus.
Wow.
I know our first instinct is to assume that Magnus has calculated things to mate, but this is going to have us on the edge of our seat because was it a practical swindle by the Norwegian magician here, just taking advantage of the fact that maybe Elvis doesn't have enough time, or has he gone a little too far because he's down a whole rook here?
It's insane. The world champion is not famous for his beautiful sacrificial attacking games, but he is very capable of incredible tactics. As we have mentioned in super tournaments, it's usually the lines that they calculate and it doesn't happen on the board.
Right.
Now what we are seeing is a rook down for Magnus Carlsen and 11.5 minutes. He's not even calculating a lot, or he has already calculated everything in the time of Elvis.
Yeah, and we know that one of the things that makes strong players even better from a practical perspective, and I always tell this to my young students, or I used to when I taught chess, that they work very hard on their opponent's turn, right? One of the things you see when you go to tournaments, Anna, is you see young players make a move and then they get up and walk around, right? And they're always walking around, and then they wonder why they get under time pressure, right? Where you see the strongest players, they work just as hard when their opponent is thinking as they do when it's their turn, and that allows them the practical advantage of staying up on the clock. So
yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that Magnus hasn't calculated it because he's up on time. He's probably working really hard on Elvis's clock, but I still just look at the position and say, I hope he's ready to prove it, because part of me is just super skeptical that sacrifice was necessary. Not that it might be dangerous, Black, but was that really necessary? I mean, okay, Black plays rook d8 here. Where's the beef? Where's
Crazy
the win?
stuff. A shout out to Grandmaster Vidit for joining us between his games. And this is... Oh, no, he's not playing today. I'm messing things up. But he normally is playing. That's
normally
why
playing. Grandmaster Vidit Gujrathi. I don't know his username on Twitch, but...
I think it's... Oh, yeah, he is playing. Okay, I'm not confusing. I was slightly worried that I'm saying something that is not, because he is supposed to be playing, but he has finished his game, and now he tunes in to see Magnus playing in between two rounds for the movers. They are facing the Eagles, as we have mentioned, and they are fighting for the top spot. A very strong Indian Grandmaster, Vidit, is going to play the Tata Steel Masters next year.
Okay, so he anchors in the knight, everybody. Obviously, Black happy to give up some material. Whenever you're up this much, you want to do whatever you can just to not get mated. But Magnus is still on the attack. Note, everybody, that the move Queen H2 might be met by knight takes B3 check. We're going to find out. Did Magnus miss this, or knight takes B3 check? You can't take it. If you move the king to B1... maybe there's nothing to it but a check, right? There's no follow-up here for Black.
Crazy stuff. So the world champion is still
if Magnus takes this down, if Magnus takes this win just straightforward with this knight takes B, this is so exciting. You're right. We don't see enough of a crazy sacrificial Magnus in his OTB tournament play, but we get a lot of it here. Okay, I'm thinking that there's probably some sort of crazy win here for White after rook a8. F5!
F5, look at that move!
Oh, he frees up the f6 square for the rook. If pawn takes, we have check on h8, king moves, rook f6 check, queen takes f6, and then g8 queen, followed by queen takes f6, everybody.
Beautiful.
Okay, so obviously Elvis sees this. He moves the queen with check and gobbles on f5 with the queen. Again, I'm still just super curious as to how he delivers the goods with g8, queen h7, and rook d8 is a win.
Awesome play by Magnus Carlsen. This could be the game of the week.
Absolutely
sure.
The game of the week. This is just bananas. He finishes it off. That was like Alpha Zero putting the hurt on Stockfish right there. That was just crazy chess.
I don't have words for Magnus's play in this round. This is what we all dreamed of seeing from Magnus Carlsen. He usually wins by grinding out a slight advantage in an endgame, and now we can really enjoy how good he is in tactics as well. This was an amazing game, so definitely a game of the week candidate. And this is that the Pro Chess League is just starting. This is the first division of all.
Wow. Okay, well, we've already moved on to other games here as I bring up more games between the Stormbringers and the DYNAMITE. That was the match that we first started with for those of you who are just joining us. But let's check in on the results with Magnus taking down Elvis in just absolutely brilliant fashion. That is the first win on the board for the Gnomes in their round 2 battle with the Horses. Of course, we know they're fighting for not just their playoff life, but to be off the bubble. Good March Madness reference for those of you getting ready to fill out your bracket. All right, where else to go? We keep saying we want to give more love to the Trolls versus the Magicians, as they are playing well today, but we still haven't been able to get there because that darn guy, Magnus, he dominates our attention.
I think we should take our time now that Magnus is waiting for the next round and have a look at some of the leaders. So
Okay.
it's Eagles versus Movers, the team of Vidit facing the team of Andresian for the first place, as well as the DYNAMITE, who are winning against the Stormbringers. But we have looked at that match slightly already. I would tune in with the Eagles versus Movers a little bit, if you agree, Danny.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm already switching to one of those games right now. The one, as we said, between we talked about him being in the Twitch chat just a moment ago. Vidit Gujarati. Let me bring that up. I've got it right now. We'll see what he can do with the white pieces against Grandmaster Samvel Sakayan. I'm sorry, Sahakyan, Tur Sahakyan. That queen set game that failed, and I still haven't had time to digest that. But Tur Sahakyan did defend his way out of a queen sack, and he gets full credit for that. I can't wait to look at that game later.
Yeah, that was board 3 of the Movers, so we did start looking at their games, but there are just so many going on. So as Danny mentioned, if you want to look at different games, go to Chess.com and hit the follow all button. Then you can choose your own game.
Absolutely, and let's see, what are we? This is kind of a boring Catalan right now, although we just saw this.
Yeah, maybe it was not the right moment to tune in. They are just starting their games. We might look at it somewhat later. I will once again give some love to Tanya, because what a weird position.
Okay, let's do it. Tanya is taking
Oh my, no,
on...
she's getting mated. This is not the right moment to look at her game.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. She still has a square for her king on f8,
yeah, it's
but
not
that's
mate
not
yet.
ideal.
If white can just put the bishop on the a3, f8 diagonal, it will be mate. Okay, bishop e3 is a strong move, taking advantage of the pin.
Oh no,
and a second pin as well, right? Speaking of pins, we've got this pawn pinned to the queen, and the pawn on c6 pinned to the bishop on b7. So bishop e3 is a really nice move, actually.
Yeah, there's one thing that we did not do at this time, and we should have. I was looking at the pawns, but hey, where's the piece that's missing from white's position? So white has sacrificed the piece for this attack, for removing the g and h pawns.
Yep.
Therefore, there's still some chance. If Tanya's king survives, then she can even win the game.
One move I'm already thinking about, is there a way... Okay, I was just going to say, is there a way to unpin and offer a queen trade? And she plays it. Queen c8. This is going to be met by queen h7 check. The king's going to run. White's going to gobble on d4. And then black could try to play a move like c5, which kind of does two things, Anna. After king f8 takes, c5 not just blocks further chances of hitting the king on this diagonal, but offers a minor piece trade, which we know black wants, given that she's up a piece. So I really like queen c8 by Tanya. This will be an interesting one to see if she can defend, for sure.
Nicely played. White is picking up more pawns for the piece, so after taking on d4, white will have 2 pawns for the sacrifice material and the very weak black king. But we see some good effort by Tanya trying to trade pieces, especially if you can remove the e4 bishop. And the queen, that would be a dream, but white does not want to trade queens.
Yeah, and white is taking a moment to calculate exactly how to handle this. I think Tanya can defend this position, honestly. I'm looking at the analysis board here, and I don't see anything concrete for white after checking and taking. Okay, I guess white does have 2 pawns for the piece after taking back on d4, but still, a piece is a piece. And that's, thanks, Captain Obvious. But yeah, so we'll see if white can get anything. Shout out to Chess Bay, everybody. Thanks, Justice Fighter 227 for clipping that last moment for us. Magnus is not playing right now, for those of you who are getting ready to yell at us. John HS9, I know you from the Chess TV chat. Shout out John HS9. Let us know if there's any other games that you guys are following, guys and gals are following, and let us know if you want us to switch to something else. Ooh, f5. Wow. Queen check and f5. I did not see this coming, and actually, it immediately makes us worry about Tanya's chances. Here comes bishop h6. Yep, and he
Oh,
plays it
no.
before I can highlight it. This move f5, everybody, super strong. Taking e3 is too slow after the move f6. There's too many problems with this king getting mated over here, and wow. Bishop h6.
This is not looking good. I feel
If bishop
very
h6,
sorry
if
for
bishop
Tanya.
takes,
After 2 winning positions, now she is eventually lost.
if bishop takes, everybody, the idea is not taking back, but this trick with queen h8, followed by gobbling the rook on e5 with check, and Tanya is in a world of hurt here. I actually don't think this is going to go her way. I know I don't want to upset you, I know, but we might want to go away from this before it gets graphic.
Yeah, I think,
for your
but
friend.
before it's even more painful. I'm of course rooting for Tanya, and she's on my fantasy chess team. She had 2 winning positions.
Wow. Look how quickly Alexei finds just the absolute hammer. I mean, I was sitting here getting ready to calculate
Oh, it's over.
taking on g7 in a number of ways, but the move f6
Wow.
just ends the game on the spot because bishop takes h6 runs into queen h8 and mate. What a
Yeah.
super nice finish there from Alexei. Honestly, I know it's Tanya going down, but this is one of the nicer games we've seen as well, to add to Magnus Carlsen's crushing win over Jan Elvis that we just finished looking at.
Beautifully played by Ivan.
I know we said we wanted to give
Alexei.
attention to others, Anna, but the truth is this Gnomes match is just so huge for the future of their fate in the Pro Chess League. We got to go back.
And it's still a tie because their board 4 has just lost again. So
I
poor
know.
Elam,
And their board-
13-year-old Elam has lost.
Their
And
board
therefore it's
3,
3-3.
Kibor, I'm going there right now. I can't get there. There it is. There it is. We have it. We have the board on the
Oh
screen.
no, Elam has not lost. He's about to lose. That's even worse for the Gnomes. It means that someone else has lost.
It means Grandelius might have lost.
Who
No,
has
there's no
lost?
way. No, because I'm looking at it. Grandelius and Prdojevic are still playing. So,
How is this a 3-3 then? Magnus has won, and there are
Magnus-
3 more games.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see if our team either can update us on that or what. But all right, let's focus on this game with Prdojevic
Sure,
here because
sure. Maybe we are missing a result.
I think he's about to lose. I'll say that. And maybe they were psychically predicting here, but Borchovsky is.
Pre-move.
Yeah, I mean they're pre-moving the updated result. I don't know, but Borchovsky is kind of bluffing. Or sorry, not Prdojevic is bluffing against Borchovsky here. Everybody, there's no way that Black has enough. This threat of sacking on a3 is not going to do the trick, and I think White's just going to be up a
Alright,
healthy
Elam
exchange.
did lose. He lost 5 minutes ago, but our board still shows the game as if it was an ongoing game. That was the
okay.
conclusion.
All right,
So he did lose.
He did lose. The
Thank
score
you.
is correct. Let's keep an eye on. Okay, we've got this game here between Borchovsky. Okay, unless there's some take on a3 check here, which I don't think there is. I think Borchovsky's going to win, which means that the big game comes down to Grandelius. And given that he's the heavy favorite here, taking on the board 4 for the Estonia Horses, you think Grandelius has got to get a win right now as White. And okay.
He has to. There's just no other result for the Gnomes. They need to be winning games on board 2 and 3. And of course, shout out to our great Chess.com team updating the results, making sure that everything is working perfectly with the Pro Chess League. And it was our mistake that we didn't realize that the game was.
We scared them. Actually, Prdojevic transposed into with the queens off the board. If he can establish this knight on e6 with g5 being weak, okay, I think White's still better here, should win this endgame. But this is. Okay, it's not out of the realm of being able to hold this. Even with 5 seconds in a time scramble, anything can happen, and knights are tricky, fickle beasts. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's go over to Grandelius' game against Mr. Kook from the Estonia Horses.
So it's a pawn up for Grandelius, but it's not that easy to convert it. Although time is a factor too, and Nils's time shows 2 minutes. His opponent has only half a minute left.
Okay, bishop f3 is a nice move. He's going to put the king on e2, try to play b4, and slowly organize his 3-on-1 majority here, everybody. And if Grandelius is able to do that, and Sander is not able to do anything with his active king and the passed d-pawn, then this should be a pretty straightforward win for White. So I think Grandelius will strike here. And One thing to consider, Anna, even though right now the matches, even the good thing for the Gnomes is that they're top heavy, right? They've got Magnus, they've got Grandelius.
Yeah.
So the theory is that when it comes down to those final games where board ones are taking on board ones, you think they have the advantage, right? So that's one thing the Gnomes are kind of counting on for their chances of staying out of the cellar of the Pro Chess League and getting eliminated for next year's season. Okay, nice
I agree
transition.
with you, but I think they would definitely feel happier if they managed to score at least a point lead before they get to the final round. That would be just a heart attack for John Ludwig Hammer, their captain, if he has to see his team playing it out all or nothing in the very last round.
Totally agree. I was highlighting some moves as Grandelius was playing them, making that point. Nobody wants Jan Ludwig to have a heart attack, believe me. Okay, Grandelius is putting on the technique here. He's about to gobble up a whole bunch of pawns and win this rook ending. So we're going to go back to the game between Prdojevic and Borochovsky, because here Black has now officially maybe threatened some sort of perpetual, Anna, with the idea of knight c1 check. A4, if this knight can come back, you might get some sort of weird tickle that the white king can't escape, or worse, some sort of checkmate if Borochovsky's not careful. Actually, this has gotten really tricky here because, okay, he gets the king out. I guess white is in control as long as he can make sure this king doesn't get mated. The rooks are still much better than the knight, but it's not so easy because black is threatening to put a rook on f5, Anna, guarding a5, hitting g5. And with the time pressure becoming more even, I think this is a huge game right now. Prdojevic might be able to hold this endgame.
It is a huge game, and Avita Borchovsky, for me, was not one of the faces that I knew in person, but then I looked every player up, and he's only 20 years old, already 25-65, his rating. So many talented players on the team of the Estonia Horses as well.
Yeah, but he's struggling here under time pressure against his higher-rated opponent. He wanted to bring the rook back to c7, everybody, but that would have failed to move knight to d5, defending f7 and forking. So, okay, so now we're staying in the live position. White has managed to get a5, but with it b2 fell. I think rook f5 followed by bringing the knight to f2, to h3, gobble g5. Yeah, that's what Prdojevic is going to do.
He went to g4, so to come back to e5
He's got a
and
fork.
take it home.
He's got a fork on c6.
Oh!
Get the fork emoji out. Use it. Use it in the Twitch chat. Spam town.
Fork emoji.
Get the fork emoji.
All use our fork
oh my gosh,
emoji.
he completely turned this around. He's winning now.
Completely. He stepped into that check and fork emojis on Twitch. Guys, this is
unbelievable. Although now, okay, I think Borchovsky had his last chance at a draw right there. He should have played rook f8 and given up a6 for f7, but he didn't. I think that, okay, I guess he still has a chance for a draw.
Subscriber for the fork emoji. Oh my.
Absolutely crazy. If you don't subscribe to Twitch TV/chess, then you can't use the fork emoji. Shame on you. Go subscribe and get your emoji on. Okay, maybe he doesn't win this, but already a huge turn of events as Black was able to not only defend the position, now he's got mate.
It's mate.
He's got mate. It's over. Resigns.
Insane. Prdojevic from a lost position. Suddenly he's got the fork in with a check.
That's why you hire free agents when you don't want to get eliminated from the Pro Chess League. That game right there, he just made his money. He literally just made that hire work for Jan Ludwig Hammer.
He did. I'm going to send some love for the gnomes in the chat. I've got the Norway Gnomes logo. And therefore, there it goes. I'm a subscriber to Jan Ludwig Hammer's channel. And he named me as an honorary member of the Norway Gnomes. I know I should not be biased as a commentator, but I got that title, so I cannot help it.
You're an honor. Borky makes the fans go crazy. Honestly, from a standings perspective, we've talked about it already, but that's a huge win right there. The Gnomes trying to stay out of the bottom.
Events.
Okay, well, let's figure out where we want to go next here in the Pro Chess League. Big win for the Gnomes, but still a lot of other games to go to. Grandelius did take care of business. Okay, we've got games going on between the Eagles and the Movers, between the Stormbringers and the Dynamite. Wow, Dmitry Andreikin fell over here to Grandmaster Narayan there for the Dynamite. So that's a huge win for the Delhi team with a currently a 1-point lead there over Volga. With the Gnomes already in the lead heading into round 3, it really puts them in the driver's seat. You see our stats have them 91% favored already to win that match because they are so top heavy. You're expecting them to win those head-to-head mono-e-mono board 1 matchups, and that's big. So let us know in the chat. Shout out to Chess Bay, Grandmaster Robert Hess, Sam Copeland. The commish himself is here. Crypto, I can name all of you. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Make sure you follow the Twitch TV Pro Chess League channel. And I know many of you would subscribe if you could. I know you would. We love you for that. But subscribe to the chess channel and use the emojis. All right, where do you want to go?
We would love to see a clip of John Ludwig Hammer's reaction on the fork. I see in the chat, John is informing us. He said that what a comeback. I can understand that for him it was a huge moment. It means a 2-point difference in the result.
Yeah,
crazy.
Absolutely huge. A huge swing. All right, I pulled up Abhijit Gupta's game against Mikhail Demidov. It looks like this one is going to end in a draw with Black having just enough mating threats to prevent Gupta from doing anything crazy. And I don't think that Gupta should lose if he just sits tight. He should be okay. I don't know. You can tell when I'm not as confident. My voice gets higher when I'm not as confident. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Oh my word! I wasn't not confident about his position because it's
right,
amazing.
Darouche. But that was just an accidental mistake that I'm not subscribed to chess right now. I'm gonna fix that. Problem ASAP.
And shout out to Greg Shahadi, of course. He's also with us, obviously, but now he's joining the Twitch chat. We can thank the Pro Chess League, thanks to Greg and the Chess.com team. So we cannot thank Greg enough for working 20 hours a day every time there's Pro Chess League.
Let's catch some crazy action here between the Movers and the Eagles. I was searching for something that would pique our interest. Go to the game between Dapati and Andreasen. Andreasen and Dapati, because this is, how did that king get on c4? To the Batcave. To the Batcave we go. The analysis board. We must figure out what happened in this game.
I've just joined you and I'm like, what on earth?
Here we go. I'm going to back up real quick, everybody, because we are curious. How did we get this position? We had a Queen's Gambit, semi-Slav, something that should be harmless. But no, says Dapati. He plays an aggressive approach with the bishop pair, takes on d5. I guess he's just going to play for minority attack. Yeah, that's what he did. So how did we get a position with the king on c4? I'm still going. Okay, h4. That's a strange move to play on move 17 when white really doesn't normally go for an attack. Almost makes me think that it's a mouse slip. White should be focused in these structures. On the queen side positional chess, you want to play the minority attack, everybody.
Indeed, get the knight to c5, knight a4, knight c5 could be an idea, and just double up on the c file against the backward pawn on c6.
Okay, we just have to go back to the board because he's finishing it. Andreasen.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So his king is right now wandering around the board on a5, and he gets mated.
I wanted to figure out what happened. The chess player in me overrode the entertainer in me. Rare that still happens, but okay. Right when we joined this position, Black was just on a monstrous attack, and he cleaned up in fashion here, mating white on the edge of the board, everybody, because after king a4, Black is going to take c5, and it's checkmate unless the lady parts. So, wow. But if you look at the two boards, full disclosure, as much as we hate that I backed up, the fact that we got that finish from a position on move 15 is just crazy to me. And
I know.
This combination right here, everybody, is instructive. Look at the analysis board where Black plays c5 followed by d4. That's an idea that can happen in these minority attack structures if white isn't careful. I think a combination of h4 being a really weird move combined with missing this idea, Black just blew open the center, and then as soon as the battery happened with mate threats, Black really put on an attacking clinic. So
really inspiring play by Zavan Andresian, former world youth champion and very strong Armenian player. Wow, that was crazy. Yeah, and h4, I agree with you. It was such a weird move, and he got punished for that move.
Borchovsky is now taking on Grandalicious. That, of course, is going to be a game that has us focused as well. But all things
As well
start
as
and
Magnus
end.
Carlsen,
Yeah, I was
who
going to
has
say
just
all things
started
start and
his
end with the
game.
world champion. So let's make sure that we have Magnus Carlsen's games up. If I can.
He's inviting his opponent to enter the Caro-Kann by playing d4 c6, still giving option to e4.
Classic Magnus.
And knight a6, he's doing now the reverse crazy cat. C6, knight a6, knight c7.
He's at it again. Magnus Carlsen. Crazy
He cannot
opening.
help it. He cannot help it.
It's the Pro Chess League, right? And he wants to get as crazy positions as he can as quickly as possible.
Whenever the Pro Chess League bug bites him, he goes for these crazy variations. The funny thing is, the stronger his opponent, the crazier the variations he chooses somehow.
Yep. We'll see how this one plays out. White is not going to be fooled and just immediately plays the move e4, and that's exactly what White should do, and get a big center and see what Magnus wants. I'm, of course, just immediately very skeptical of Magnus's openings because the knight on a6 doesn't belong there. You're already in a position where you have to choose your dubious choices if you're Magnus, because if you play knight to c7, I think White's just going to play d5. That's what White should play. White should grab a huge center and with it sort of keep this knight in a bad post. But if he doesn't move the knight, I think White might just capture a6 and be happy to play against the doubled a pawn. So okay, we are once again put in the world of Magnus Carlsen, and we're going to see. I made a mistake last time, Anna, of betting that Magnus would lose a game. Fool me once, shame on Magnus. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I'm not gonna say he's not gonna win this game, but I do think this is a bad position for Black.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I see some great comments on Twitch and on Chess.com. For instance, John is saying, "Why is Magnus playing for the Gnomes? He's obviously a troll."
Right. It's true, actually. I mean, as far as trolls go, Magnus is trolling his opponents more than anybody else in the league. We should have some troll games up. It's hard for us to...
Trolling. Mentioning trolling, I see Greg pointing out that we've got the positivity label on Twitch, and of course this is a very positive and family-friendly channel. The opponent of Magnus. I was doing some digging because research is something I like to do besides pulling the leg of Greg Shahade, and then I bumped into a jam, Danny.
Yeah.
There's a jam on YouTube, a game between Ottomar Ladva and Greg Shahade.
Wow.
It was played on Chess.com in one of the Blitz battle qualifiers.
Okay.
So Greg was streaming, of course, about the game, and it's on his YouTube channel. And the game was just ups and downs, but in the end, it's Greg having a rook up. I'm sorry, Greg, that I'm pouring salt in your wound, but he was a rook up. Then he sacrificed the rook for one of the remaining pawns, and then he lost on time in a deadly draw position. So that is Ottomar Ladva, and Greg was saying at the beginning of the stream, "Who is this guy? I need to beat him. I don't care who he is."
So the point, Greg, is you need to know who your opponents are before you say, "Who is this guy?" Right?
Yeah.
I've pulled up some of the troll games here on the analysis board. Obviously, our main board is
awesome.
Focused on.
The truth is, Ottomar is only 20 years old now and the grandmaster. So back then, he was just an 18-year-old international master, and Greg did not know him.
Let's go to this trolls game, magicians versus trolls game. We've got Zwardon versus Haug, because there's a really good example once again of a bishop dominating a knight. I'm going to pull it up here on the main board.
Shout out to Jen, of course. We love Jen Shahade, and yeah, thank you for your comment, Jen. I think that I was amazed by simply the stream of Greg, and I definitely wanted to bring it up.
Here comes a4, and do we just have another lost pony? Poor lost souls. I don't know why White can't just... Okay, he takes a6. I guess a4... Maybe he didn't...
Danny, I think our analysis board is not on the screen.
Oh no, I've got it up now. Yeah.
Oh, you got it already. Sorry.
I'm
seeing the comments now.
The knight. Okay, but hold on. Before we can even do this, I'm trying to find games of the trolls, but sometimes it's not meant to be, because now I got to go back and cover Gupta's game because he's down under time pressure. Oh, the game did eventually. Tried to go there for the last second photo finish, but just missed it. Commentator's curse. Gupta.
No.
But Gupta holds a draw, so it's what we expected. So as far as results go, the Dynamite are still... No, they're not. The Stormbringers draw helps because Gupta was supposed to get a win that game, and then that matchup stays tied. The Eagles are also a team that we haven't looked as closely at as, for example, the match between the Gnomes and the Horses, but they are putting the hurt on the Movers currently. So that's a matchup. We'll try to watch a few more of those games as the Eagles look like they're on their way to clinching that match. Okay, where to go? I'm going back to Magnus's game. This is like a position you tell your kids is a dream, right? Bishops on f4 and c4, knights on c3 and f3. White has a massive center, a lead in development. This is why sometimes people are great players, but you should do what they say, not as they do. Because if you did what Magnus does here, you may not win many games as black. That's the truth.
I'm still catching up with you. I was reading the chat. And of course, Jan is going to be covering the next division, the Central Division. So Stay tuned because this is just the beginning of the Pro Chess League final round for the playoffs.
That's right. If you're just joining us, remember that we've got a whole day of Pro Chess League. This show will be going well into the night, Pacific time, or the next day if you happen to live in Russia or India with some of these other teams. So lots of chess on the docket for today. White plays a4. We're going to keep a close eye on this, but Magnus will not troll me again into predicting he's going to lose. I'm not going to predict that, but this is a bad position for black. A very dubious opening. So, all right. Other games under time pressure. Vidit Gujrathi deserves some love. Vidit loves hanging out in the chat here at Twitch, so let's see what he can do to help the Movers not get run off the board here. He needs to win this game.
He needs to. And the Movers not only need to win the match, but also it matters how many points they score for the tie breaks in case the Dynamites win.
Yeah, and the Dynamite are in position to do that. They have their top boards taking on the top boards from the Stormbringers, which means the next round is going to include a battle between Gupta and Andrekin, so we'll make sure we follow that. But yeah, I think this is a huge game for the Movers in regards to their playoff standings. But okay, Gujrathi's better here.
It's 7-3 already for the Eagles. I didn't realize that they started gaining so much of an advantage.
Right.
Only 1.5 points, and the Eagles take home the win.
If Gujrathi wins this game, that'll bring the match that much closer. At least they're within striking distance heading into the final round. A5 is falling, and he's going to take his time gobbling it up. So Gujrathi plays rook c5. He's going to take a5. This is a good trade for white, despite that it's an e2 pawn traded for the a pawn, everybody, because the b4 pawn is much weaker than any other peshki on the board here. So this is a good one for Gujrathi. We'll see if he can convert on it.
I think he will do it, but it still requires some technique. Of course, time is once again a factor that favors white here. 3 minutes against half a minute for Tersakhayan.
Yeah, Irina Krush will be back today. Crypto Chess paired up with Grandmaster Robert Hess. And so for those Irina Krush fans, there are many of you. She will be back behind the mic again today. All right, I think that white is going to win this game. As he gobbles up the b4 pawn, you're going to have a passer that is much harder for black to deal with than anything else. So, I mean, now I think there's a move like bishop f1. I bet Gujrathi is considering just how much he wants to clamp down things and maybe keep this bishop on a2 sidelined for a while. Okay, there's knight c6 and bishop f1 here for Gujrathi. Both of those are nice moves. All right, I know everyone wants us to go back. We've got some Magnus Carlsen games. He is currently just worse, but going to weasel his way out, and he's already found a way to do just that, going for a classic center fork by taking on e4 and playing d5. He's going to be liberating his pieces. This is a very nice idea to keep in mind when you have less space in a position like this, where you can capture, fork in the center, and immediately get more opportunities for your pieces, right? When you have less space, you have less options. So this is a position that Magnus is going to be probably taking on e4 and already in a prime spot to focus on the d4 pawn. So
Yes, certainly.
that's
He's
why I
not
didn't
really
predict he was going to
hurt.
lose. I just said his position was bad. That's all.
I think he is now about to equalize thanks to this nice fork that you have mentioned, capturing on e4 and this idea with d5. He has played knight e6. Instead of taking on e4, simply attacking yet another piece, then he will capture the knight. And this looks now fine for black, but it does not mean that you should start with c6, knight a6, your own
That's
games.
right.
It takes Magnus Carlsen to be able to get out of this.
Yeah, and I think Justice Fighter using that fork emoji was precisely because of this fork that we weren't
Oh,
covering
I
live.
should use it
But there we
too.
go.
Danny,
Okay,
you
so
cannot. Danny, you cannot.
I cannot. I know. All right, but hold on. Go back to the crazy finishes. We got position opened up. Tersahakian found a way to sacrifice some pieces back to get some counterplay. And is he okay? He's not threatening anything immediate with Queen C1 check because the white queen guards it. But Gujarati is going to have to find a way to use his extra piece without this king falling at least to a perpetual and maybe a mate if you're not careful because you got problems here. This is what happened. Let's to the Batcave.
I don't understand what's going on here. Is it now completely winning for black with the piece after the piece sacrifice threatening mate on h1?
I have a hard time believing white can't wiggle out to some degree, and maybe it allows a perpetual, but is black really just going to be winning here? So, like I said, to the Batcave in the analysis board, we left the position right here where Gujarati decided to try to trap this bishop and then play h4, but perhaps he just underestimated the potential problems of h4 and that it might allow a
Repeating
sacrifice
moves.
back.
Yeah, repeated moves.
He just gave a
Then
draw.
once again,
Gave a draw.
just when it was becoming so interesting and exciting, they agreed to a draw. Of course, with it could not do anything else but repeat moves. I thought that black was playing for a win already. Is there a way to play?
Well, I guess Tersahakian, might have been just assessing the match position, right? Because if we check out the results, it's not like Armenia needed to win that game. They're now up 8-3 with basically having already clinched the match there, right? Our stats say they are 99% favored, and with that, their board 4 actually just got a draw, which means officially the Armenia Eagles have already won their match against the movers, and we haven't even played the last round yet. So
incredible result for the Eagles. That means that they will be one of the top teams, if not the top team in the Eastern Division. The only team that can overtake the first spot from the Eagles is the DYNAMITE. Mm-hmm. They need to win the match and score more game points than the Eagles. Before this round, they were completely tied, the exact same game points.
Well, and on that note, let's go to the top board from the matchup between the Stormbringers and the DYNAMITE. That's going to be Andreikin versus Gupta. This is like a titled Tuesday battle or any kind of battle. These two guys have played each other a few times here on Chess.com. And, Andreikin being favored on paper in regards to being north of 2,700. But Gupta has been as consistent as many board ones, maybe outside of guys like Magnus Carlsen or Caruana. But he's had a good pro chess league this year. Now he's black against Andreikin, which is always a tough pairing. I do like Andreikin's position so far because he's managed to get this Maroczy bind kind of structure and with it the knight on d5. But, okay, there's a passer on d4. Slightly unbalanced. Intuitively, just quickly, I like white. I like white's chances here, just looking at the position without even knowing how they got here.
I like it too. I don't know how the knight managed to get there, but it got there. And the position, well, we like the chances of white, but it must be about equal still. It's a very close position. I'm just amazed by how the Eagles have taken the match already against one of the strongest teams in the Eastern Division.
Yep.
And
as you said, that already guarantees them the top seed almost, right? Okay, no, you're right. DYNAMITE could leapfrog them with total game points, but...
So in worst case, they are second, which is also a great win. What matters here, so first 4 teams qualify for the playoffs. The playoffs is a knockout system. Therefore, if your team is first, that will give you draw odds in every match until you reach the next divisions matchup. I'm not explaining it very well, but...
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Explaining tie breaks is always a tongue twister.
The higher ranked your team is in the standings, the better it is for you because it will have draw odds in case of the knockout. So
That's
8-8 always favors the team that got more points in the first part of the Pro Chess League.
All right, well, Gupta's thinking about how he wants to handle this tension on the c-file between the pawns and whether he can do something to blow it open or if he needs to try to close it up. But this knight being on d5 almost looks like it was dropped there in a bug house game or something, because the access points b4, c3, e3, f4, all of them are gone, yet somehow Andreykin weaseled in this knight to a really strong post. So I think this is going to be right now favoring the Stormbringers, at least on board one for this final round matchup. We're getting calls to go back to Magnus's game. We already know he was wiggling his way out of that bad opening and is now in a rook ending where he's probably the only one who can win at this point, if he can quickly get counterplay on the queen side. But okay, maybe it's not as bad for Grandmaster Yadva as we thought it was. Ladva,
Rook takes a4, rook takes b7 seems to be the most logical follow-up here.
The thing is, if you're Magnus, you'd like to play c5 to protect b4 and get one more move to play rook a2, but you can't do that. So if you play c5, I assume that now Ladva's going to play either rook c7 or rook b5, and Magnus doesn't quite have enough time to get the c2 pawn. So what is his plan on a move like rook to c7? Is he just going to play rook a5 and then try to, or is he settling on some sort of equal rook ending? Maybe I don't know. I mean, my first thought that Magnus had winning chances here seems to be a crazy one. I feel like White is doing just fine.
I also don't see the follow-up after rook c7, but I feel like if Magnus entered this, it is for a reason. So I'm still believing that he sees something that we might not see after rook c7, right? Though I have a hard time figuring out, because rook a5 is a very passive move.
Right. Is there a way to sacrifice the c pawn for the e pawn? Magnus makes you a better player because your faith in him is so strong.
I know.
So you push yourself to consider other options. If rook c7, okay, the other option I'm thinking maybe he has is a move like rook a1 check, and bringing the rook around to e1 perhaps. But White can even play king f2, and again, there doesn't seem to be not a lot of action for Magnus as far as winning chances go. So this may be a draw that he drops here. Right now, I have a hard time believing Black can do much more than that.
I think I see an idea.
Okay.
Because if you bring the rook, you give a check, then you go to c1. The moment White takes on c5, you have a pin.
Ah, so you have this move b3, and that's maybe what Ladva saw, so he doesn't go for this line.
I don't know if that wins, but I needed to find something. You say that Magnus.
No, I like that idea.
Player, and it's true, because we try looking for something that's not the passive move. And after rook b5, well, he can also play c4.
He has the same idea that you just highlighted. That was a really nice find, because now no matter where the king moves, I think you have to go to h2 now because of this idea that you found. I think that's too dangerous to play king f2, rook c1, rook takes c5 and b3. And the threat is even moves like rook takes c2 with check or b2. So I think White is losing. I think White needs to play king h2 here.
And that's what's the exact difference if I try to do the same? You will.
No, I think you can do the same, but at least now there's no check on the second rank. So if I take and you play b3, I could play rook b5, for example, and force you to take on c2 with the pawn, and then play rook back to c5. Kind of keeping the rook behind the pawn. This might be a decent. Okay, we're going for this line. I think White will play rook to b5, just as we just calculated, and yeah, we're going to get that exact position. Okay.
So the question is this winning?
Yeah, hard believing that, right? I mean, because if White puts the rook on c7. Well, I guess, okay, so one issue is that maybe it is winning, because now that the rook is completely stuck to c2, this king has sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card that eventually these pawns are going to be lost, everybody, because Black has a free ride. The point is White can't just sit on c7 because it's just a bluff. If Black comes out, the rook has to let the king up due to the fact that it has to guard c2. So eventually we're going to get a position where both e-pawns are gone, I think. And does Magnus have winning chances there? That's the question.
3 versus 2 on the king side. One factor that also supports the idea that Magnus will be winning this game is that he's got twice the time on the clock.
Yeah, that's true. Practical chess should never be underestimated, especially because that's why it's a game and not a science, right? Get somebody to blunder under time pressure, right? People have been doing that to me for years.
I did not know, Greg, that I have stolen your idea. This time I was definitely not looking at the chat, but I appreciate that I stole something from you, if
All
not
right.
the 10,000 from Fantasy Chess.
Stealing from Greg, my old job. I love that. All right, well, yeah, black is coming forward. You're going to get a position where the e-pawns are lost. And again, white can't... White's going to calculate it, but white can't run the king, everybody, because the moment that king puts itself on the second rank, there's ideas of the backdoor rook trick and probably a skewer that goes into a winning king and pawn ending. Okay, so the white king is activating itself in the idea that if the rook comes to g1, white's able to capture c2 and guard the pawn with tempo. Okay, Did Ladva figure out a blockade? Really convenient that I didn't see, Anna, is that this rook on c5 is actually unmovable due to the fact that the doubled e-pawns perfectly control all the squares that Magnus would need to attack it. So that's actually really important for white. That's it. That could be the reason why Ladva was able to draw this game right there.
Danny, I think the chat also wants you to have your own emotes. I see some demands.
I can't. How could I compete with your fancy hat? I mean, that's.
I know.
No reason to even get an email. Although I do have my crazy Fiesta Danny.
Oh,
so
I would love to see that. And also, Uncle Sasha deserves an emote, I believe.
All right. Well, I need to. First, I need to do is stream regularly, and then I can get emotes. But all right. So there's other games going on, not just this one here. There's a million choices. If you're just joining us, go to Chess.com TV, click on the follow button, or go to Chess.com live directly, and just. Okay. Here we go. Magnus is going to give up the c2 pawn to win both e-pawns and then try to grind it out with 3 versus 2. Does he have any business winning this endgame? The answer is no. Will he win this endgame? I put it at about 75% chance that he'll find a way to win. This is... Okay, maybe that's a little extreme against a grandmaster like Ladva, but it's a position where black should not be able to win without white having any other weaknesses besides just being down a single pawn in a rook ending, but who knows? All right, are there other games that are more exciting that we don't want to miss, Anna? Okay.
I was looking at the
here we go, Trolls.
Oh.
Versus, hurry, run, Tom Cantons, the friend of Magnus Carlsen. Where is it? Go as fast as you can. We got poor little Greenie versus Ori Kobo.
What happened there on a personal level? Because I remember that there was a story, but I can't recall it.
No, but this is a big win right here, because if Cantons can win here as black, that puts Riga back in the match, because they are in desperate need of some victories currently.
Definitely. This should be a big win if Tom Cantons manages to win this, which is very likely from an exchange and a pawn up.
Yeah,
Still, they need a couple of points. Of course, there's a huge deficit they need to recover from. But this is a good start for the magicians.
Here he can play, I was going to say rook c7 first and gain a tempo before bringing the king up. Okay, he does it this way, which is just as good, because the point is, everybody, you're threatening mate, so the f5 pawn can't be captured. Now he has f4, and I believe he goes on to win. Okay, playing slowly, nothing wrong with that. He can flip the rook, give a check, and f2 falls, but f4 was also probably pretty easily winning there. So Cantons is going to take down Kobo. That's going to bring the magicians to 4.5. By my math, there's still one game going down here between the Trolls and the Magicians. What game is that? I don't know. Let's go to Magnus Carlsen while we wait, because we haven't had nearly enough Magnus today. Sarcasm.
Not quite yet. Also, guys, if you want to see the Captain of the Gnomes streaming at the same time, there's a great link to the multi-Twitch page on Twitch. There you can see John Ludwig Hammer and us at the same time, and you can interact in both chats.
We've got, what do we got here? We've also got another game for the Gnomes that is bigger probably than Magnus's game, considering that it's more likely to be decisive. Here, Prdojevic is down and under pressure against the board 4 from the horses. This is not an ideal position here, with black having complete control over the second rank and a more active king. So that's going to be a big one for the Gnomes if Prdojevic can work his way back.
Yeah, he has done this already in the previous game.
Yeah, no, that I'm still just that might be the game of the day just from the sheer turnaround of it. Even though Magnus's win over Elvis, if you missed it, do yourself a favor and back this thing up and check out that game. Just amazing chess by Magnus against the former Estonian world number 3. I'm opening up a whole bunch of games here, Anna, because I don't want to miss anything exciting. I'm spoiled when it comes to exciting chess.
I was just going to point out that even though Prdojevic is a very strong grandmaster, 2600, so that's a super grandmaster, he's struggling. It seems like you need to get used to the Pro Chess League. This is his first ever match in the Pro Chess League, and he was lost in the previous game, and now he's struggling against the lowest rated opponent from the Estonia Horses.
Agreed. And you would think, given that he's not after rook c3, that's a nice move, everybody.
Wow.
Offering the the king and pawn ending, but Prdojevic saw it coming and plays king g3. The question is he losing anyway in the king and pawn ending? I wonder. Maybe not. Okay, no, he's not. The point, everybody,
the black king cannot cross after rook takes, pawn takes, and there's just no entry square. But still, it feels suspicious, this whole idea, because you can't move the rook and you can't move the king.
Yep.
What if I just pause?
Yeah, what if I play f6, right? Just sit tight. The point, everybody, the reason black doesn't trade right away is because after takes, white's going to get f4 check, and there's really nothing black can do about it, so white will have a blockade likely. Any one of these moves can be met by just closing up the position. And indeed, Mr. Kook plays exactly what we said he should do. He just sits tight. And I think Prdojevic is going down. This is the upset that the horses need to shock the Gnomes, if that's going to happen, if we're going to have a huge turnaround today.
Definitely. So they might just tie the score with this victory, and upset by Sander Cook. Prdojevic, who was struggling in the previous round, now he is not lucky in this game. I agree with Stavis that he's saying that he is, of course, rooting for the Gnomes, that it's a great team, but the horses, they have done so well. So it's really a match where one of the teams will not make it to the playoffs, and we would love to see both teams doing well.
No, you're right. And again, we're talking about 2 storylines, right? This is the last week of the regular season. If you haven't planned on what you're doing with March 13th next week, now you know. You're watching the Pro Chess League. But there's all kinds of storylines going as well, because Volga is also in the cellar currently, along with the Trolls, and both teams. The Trolls are going to have to fight their way back next year, pretty much guaranteed at this point. Not pretty much, it is, right? But Volga is right there with Riga, and so that's it'll be interesting to see how that division looks after today's play. So, all right. Prdojevic.
Yeah, if the Magicians lose, according to Greg, who knows everything, then the Stormbringers would make it to the next season, at least with a tie, but they cannot lose the match against the DYNAMITE.
Prdojevic is losing here. We'll come back to it. Magnus is not winning on his board. What's going on with Grandalicious? Time to find out. Looks like he's already done. No, he's not. Grandelius is taking on Grandmaster Borochovsky, and this is a fun one. What do we got here? Here we have the role reversal with a knight dominating a bishop for once, and f2 as a serious problem for white. Just about everybody is pinned. You can't move the rook because the bishop falls, can't move the bishop because the pawn falls. I think Borochovsky is in big trouble here. A move like queen f6 is on the board, and is Grandelius not just instantly winning? Looks like he is.
It looks like many moves should be winning. Such a weak king, and all the pieces are tied up. This is a nice win for the Gnomes. It's surprising to all of us who believe in Magnus Carlsen's endgame skills that he can win no matter what endgame, even if it's a drawn rook endgame, but maybe not this one, though he still has more time on the clock. So 5 minutes versus 1 minute, 2 versus 1. Well, this is a draw endgame, but white has to prove that he can defend it.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm showing that right there, but I was also flipping to the Grandelius game. Now he's played the move knight e2, which I think we're just going to see a resignation by Borochovsky, because the bishop is... Okay, look at that. He tried to see if there was a pre-move. That's hilariously clippable. Look at that. That's all Rook B1 is.
Wow.
All Rook B1 is just seeing if black has pre-moved taking on E2. That's all it is. Because it just gives up the rook on move 1. So now that is a good lesson for the kids. If you're getting completely outplayed, do the classless thing and try to get your opponent in a pre-move trap. This is just online chess 101. So do the classless thing before you resign. That's a pro tip. You heard it here. All right. The games that we started with deserve our attention now because Andreykin and Gupta are in a really weird position where Gupta has sacrificed the exchange for a couple of passers and some attacking chances. But will it be enough, or is Andreykin just winning things on c6 and the game with it? What do you think? I feel like there's no way this attack is enough, but maybe I'm wrong. The king's going to move, and Gupta's... Let's go to the Batcave. To the Batcave. To the Batcave.
I feel so insecure about White's king situation.
Yeah, E3.
First of all, where do you go from the check?
But the problem is I think you go to H2, and E3 isn't possible, I think, because D3 falls.
If you go to H2, I'm going to take on A2 with a check.
Oh, you would do that to me, wouldn't you?
I definitely would do that to you.
Know what? Not fair, Anna. Yeah, okay, so I can't go to H2. And if I go to H1, but that's a problem, because now you still can't play E3, but you could play Queen D5, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Queen D5, threatening E3 check. You like that? Maybe? There's Queen C4. I guess that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you trade queens, suddenly those two passers look even more threatening, right? Because they're just so dangerous potentially.
That's true.
Okay, well we're gonna find out. Let's stick right here because this is a fun one to
H1.
analyze.
So if queen takes A2, no, he cannot. Can he?
Well, you could try. I mean, C6
No, I
is
mean,
falling.
sorry, you cannot do
Oh,
that.
no,
without
C8
check,
is
but
falling
the
with
C8
check.
rook is hanging. So
Yeah,
this
with
is a
check.
completely different story.
Yeah.
If it's not a check, you can't take it. So what he can do is what? Queen D5 I'm looking at with
But
ideas
again,
about
Queen D5 falls
Queen
to the C8 with check
C4.
again. I just totally missed that the
Oh,
first
what
time.
am I doing?
Yeah. No,
I keep on blundering the same rook.
Mutual blindness.
Okay, for me, in my mind, that rook is protected. That this is called chess blindness.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I have to push the pawn first, and then I go to E4 or D5 with a check. I figured
You
it
could
out.
also, you know what you could have here, actually? So, I think black could play rook C7, removing the rook from check, and if white plays B5, now the queen isn't taking on D3, so now E3 is super strong because of threats of queen E4 check, as well as winning with a whole bunch of pawns. So rook
That's
C7.
really deep. That's really deep, Danny.
Rook C7 might be the move that we're going to play here as black.
I like it. It's a funny move because you are just self-pinning yourself on the C file.
And you're just making like this most simple way to stop queen takes C8 check, sort of subtle,
Yeah.
but actually I don't know what white does against the threat of E3 now.
So is this such a big threat? Like, let's say rook C7, B5, E3. Okay, he doesn't agree with us. King to F7.
No, but let's look at it. You're right, because let's say white just takes on C6. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's not that big of a threat.
I wanted to see if we have mate after queen D5 check.
Yeah, maybe black
now
didn't
there's
have
no
enough.
time for it. It's a completely different story. He went king F7, B5, knight E7.
He's trading queens, and the thing is, everybody, that I mean, if the queens come off the board, black's winning chances aren't totally gone. You don't have a mating net anymore, but these pawns are super dangerous for Andreykin. There's multiple moves to consider here. Rook takes C8, bishop takes E7, queen takes E6. What does white want here? Even queen A4, keep the queens on the board and attack the bishop on D4.
We are informed by our very supportive community on Chess.com and on Twitch that Magnus has just drawn his game against Mr. Ottomar. Who is this guy, Ladva? So that's who he is. He has just drawn the world champion.
Okay, well, a big win, right? For, what do we got there? Someone just subscribed? Is that even a thing? Over on the chess channel.
I guess they can follow the channel, and you should follow the Pro Chess League channel on Twitch.
Yeah. Okay, we're keeping our cameras tuned right here. People who wanted us to see people who wanted us to see the Magnus Carlsen game, it's irrelevant. It was an easy draw. Let it go. Sometimes Magnus games aren't the most important games to follow. I know that's a shocking memo, but
It's hard
okay.
to believe it, but
Hard to
sometimes.
believe, but we're going to focus right here in the big game between the Stormbringers and the Dynamite board 1 action. The analysis board. Yeah, someone just subscribed to Chess.com, and I found out here there isn't currently an ability to subscribe. You can follow the Pro Chess League channel, but I don't need to remind any of you that because you've all done it. I mean, I know you're busy. You're watching a chess show on the internet. I know you're super busy, but you might want to consider pressing the follow button. All right, so he takes e7. Okay, I think he has to trade on. Okay, crazy line. Let's just look at it. What the bejesus? Yeah, he takes there, and I think he's going to take on c1, takes, and then call me crazy. He's going to play e3. He doesn't take back on e7. Watch this.
Oh, really?
Just totally guessing e3, and the point is the bishop guards a7 with perfect timing to stop white from getting a queen. He takes a6, takes.
E3,
He takes.
I'd come back with the
e3.
bishop to b4.
I was just kidding. I was just testing you.
I mean, I don't see the win, but
Okay, but he
I'm
has to
believing
take on
you,
e7.
Danny. I believe in you.
This is Danny. I mean, I don't have an engine here. I'm just throwing it out there, seeing if something sticks. All right, king takes e7 is forced then, if bishop b4 is enough. But then we have really weird lines to consider. How is white... If white plays a7, bishop takes, rook c7 check, the king moves. You can't take a7 because d2 is just winning. So Andreykin has to find some way to do something quickly with the pawn. Okay, he's saying he can just stop it. He can just stop the pawns. King to g2. He's going to meet e3 with king to f3, and everybody's okay.
King to f3 or king to... Well, yeah, I like king f3, and king f1 is the other option. He likes more king f1, of course.
Yeah, he's going to put the king on e1, and...
Yeah,
but you
it
still
makes
have
more
to deal with
sense.
the
I was
bishop.
worried about some checks, but eventually you don't get the bishop to the right diagonal.
No, but I'm still worried about it because if e2, king e1, there's bishop b6, and he plays it right away. But I like the idea of bringing.
First. Yeah.
Okay, the problem
So
I guess for black is you can't. There are no lines like this, everybody. I'll just make a move. If e2 and bishop check, you have d2. That's the idea. But there's no lines where you get a queen and just win as black, because at the end of it the a7 pawn is unstoppable. So black, just because black is going to win the rook maybe for the pawn doesn't mean that black is winning, because this a pawn is so strong.
That's very true, and that's what he's doing. He's actually forcing black to move that bishop. In case of e2 check and then bishop a5, he will give up the rook, as you have mentioned, and the a pawn promotes. This is winning for white.
Yeah, Andreykin wins. I think now it's just a7. a7, bishop takes, he wins the bishop, and the king is stopping the pawn. So the final line, everybody, was that a move like e2 check here, bishop a5 check, king f2. There was no longer a d2 with tempo because of Andreykin's last very strong move. So d2 would have just allowed taking, and Andreykin's going to win. And with that, what does that do to the standings? If the Stormbringers, you could argue the Stormbringers are playing for more, Anna, because even though the Delhi Dynamite are at the top of the standings, the Stormbringers are trying to get out of the cellar, right, and make sure that they don't have to requalify. So the Stormbringers are doing two things. They're helping Armenia clinch the 1 seed from the Eastern Division, and they're making sure that they have better chances of not having to requalify. So this is going to be a big win here.
Yes, and with that, they will already reach 8 points and only need half a point left from the remaining game. So that's huge for the Stormbringers.
He will resign right there, and he does just that. Okay.
Andreykin wins. This is a match that started out very well for the Dynamite. So the Stormbringers managed to flip it, and now they are almost there. They, in worst case, tie the match, but with half a point more, they will beat one of the strongest teams, the leader of the Eastern Division, the Dynamites.
Yep. And that helps Armenia, who is already clinched. Again, if you're just joining us, they were certainly the most dominant team today, showing that they are one of the teams to beat heading into the postseason, clinching the 1 seed in the Eastern Division after today. We're going to follow the Gnomes now, because with Estonia really playing well in that last in the round 3 matchup, the Gnomes have got to do what they came to do, which is their top boards winning, right? You've got Magnus Carlsen playing on board 1 against Avital Borachovsky. You've got the man with the best username ever, Grand Delicious, taking on Latva. And then you've got the free agent acquisition at the last moment, Grandmaster Predojevic taking on Jan Elvis. So those are the 3 GM on GM action going on here between the Gnomes and the Horses. So okay, we've got all those. What else do we have? We've got other games going on too. If anybody sees a game a little more exciting, just yell at me. I'm really into being yelled at.
There's so many things to cover. And of course, there's a fantasy league too, the fantasy chess for $10,000 that you can win from Greg Shahadi's purse. I wonder how the scores are. And this time, there's a very interesting feature that one of the users is actually our system by Matt, the predictions, the statistics that you have seen and that you are still seeing on the screen, of course. We have a genius on our team, Matt, who has prepared it, and he created a handle in fantasy chess based on purely on the predictions.
I almost feel like that's wrong if he wins, right? Do we really even want to know? I
guess he will donate the money if that account wins, because that's like, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like being excited about AlphaZero. Like, we're excited for the chess and it's great, and then all of a sudden you realize the implications is that Skynet is about to become self-aware, right? And we're all going to be fighting for our lives against the Terminator. So if the stats just predict better than any human, which is still supposed to be something that's really impossible, we'll find out. But yeah, Anna mentioned the prizes. Let's remind you what the players are playing for in the Pro Chess League as we head into the playoffs. Prizes getting bigger every year, hoping for that to continue to be the thing. But right now, this is more than any online team event we've ever had, and that's what these teams are competing for as we head into the pro season. And of course, all of you are competing for fantasy prizes week in and week out. The stats, as you said, Anna, are what Matt used to fill out his fantasy bracket. And right now, I'm looking at the stats, and they seem to be pretty accurate based on what the pre-match predictions were. I guess besides Volga upsetting the DYNAMITE, but otherwise things seem to be on pace to what the pre-match stats said they would do. So we will see.
Incredible. So he might just win 10,000, Matt and his artificial intelligence.
All right, well, where do we want to go? I'm looking for some games that are under time pressure, as these matchups between the Gnomes and the Horses are only just underway.
With two wins already secured by the Stormbringers and the Eagles, that means that the Eagles have won the Eastern Division. There's no question about that anymore.
So congratulations to the Eagles.
Congratulations to the Armenian team. They qualified from the qualification tournament.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing that you mentioned there, right? Because
they fought their way to this year's Pro Chess League, and now they have won the Eastern Division. It means that in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they have draw odds. In case of 8-8, they move on in the knockout system.
Yeah, and it's good news for some of those in the bottom division, that just because you have to requalify doesn't mean you don't have a chance to win, right? It's like having the wild card in the NFL. I don't even know if that makes sense, but okay. What do we have here? We've got. I want to go to this game between Vidit Gujrathi and Andresian, because 1, it's about to be a really exciting finish, and 2, even though it's irrelevant, okay, it's the only one that's close to finishing. I guess it's irrelevant because the Eagles are already the number 1 seed in the East, but trying to give some Vidit love, you know. He hangs out in the Twitch chat. I feel
he's such a nice guy, so he definitely deserves it.
He's about to take this win right here against Andresian.
Trading queens just in the right moment with 3 pawns up, this opposite colored bishop endgame, and even the queenside pawns will drop because of the wrong color where you have fixed your pawns. So it's a completely winning endgame for black.
Okay, so all right, everybody, I hear you. Back to the Magnus game. All right. Well, Magnus is better here as white. Note that in this game, with a lot on the line, he didn't go to Troll Town. He didn't play knight h3 on move 1 and f3 here, right? Too bad,
What a disappointment.
What a disappointment, right? All right, so
how can he not do that?
He's better. Grandilicious, Niels Grandelius, also a little better here structurally. You've got the C file, and I think White's just positionally better here. What's going on in the game between the last-minute free agent acquisition and Jan Elvist? We've got, okay, just getting started. Nothing too exciting there. Looking for other exciting games to go to. What do we got here? We've got, okay, this is most of our exciting games right now are going down between the movers and the horses. The Eagles, which unfortunately is not really that relevant as far as the overall match standing. So I won't take us there. All right. Well, let's focus right here. Let's focus on Magnus' game.
And in terms of the movers and the dynamites, actually, we can already see the game points too, but I'm just lazy to add it up. It still matters how many points they score. Yes, it still matters. So it matters.
So it does matter. Too. That's how we convince ourselves that it matters, right?
It matters.
How exactly?
But I think they cannot catch the dynamite.
I think it's already out, yeah, because they lost.
Yes, it's too much of a difference.
Too much of a difference between them and the Eagles. So even if Vidit wins that game, I think it's already over. So they needed more than a 9-7 loss to be able to catch them.
Exactly.
Right. So
and what happens, I don't know if we can bring back the standings, but there's something really interesting is that the standings before this round will actually show the standings after the round in case the horses survive against the Gnomes. So Armenia first, Dynamite second, the movers are third. This is already for sure. And the horses or the Gnomes will be on fourth place.
Yeah, so this is they're fighting right now. Now the Gnomes, I think, have secured that even with a loss here. No, I guess with a loss they could still be eliminated and have to requalify if they somehow manage to lose this match. I don't think that's going to happen. But if they win against the horses in this head-to-head battle, then they make the playoffs, right? And we'll see them next week.
Yeah, exactly. So they still have this all or nothing.
All or nothing. This is it.
Match of today for sure.
So Queen B3, played by Magnus. What we've got here is a threat of Rook to D1 and E4, everybody. And this is, I think White is actually, it makes you wonder why Magnus doesn't just play more straightforward openings, because I think that Magnus is already in control here. White is better here because it's much harder to develop the queen side for Black than it is for White in this position. White's moves are just sort of free-flowing, right? Rook D1 is coming. There's threats of C4 and E4. Any move you play as Black, you've got the A file to worry about. You've got this White Knight hopping into E5 and D4. I feel like Magnus is going to be moving forward really, really quickly here. He's already got a 5-minute time advantage against Borachovsky, so we like Magnus's chances here. What about board 2 for the Gnomes? Okay.
Board 2, Grandelicious against
Lodvig gets C5 in. That helps eliminate the queenside weakness, but when you look at these positions, everybody, you want to see more than just the current tactics. You want to see the forest through the trees, as I like to say, which is that there's potentially some light square problems for Black that you don't think about now because position is semi-closed and it's not like White's just popping some pawns on the light squares. This isn't Bughouse, but as the position opens up here, you think that Black maybe has some long-term problems that Grandelius is going to try to expose. I expect to move just like Bishop B3, Bishop G3 here, and then try to organize opening up the position to get at these light squares. What do you think, Anna?
I agree with you that this is about long-term advantage. The E6 back for the pawn and light square problems, both on the king side and about the pawn structure. So it's not a problem for White if he cannot do something immediately. He's got time, healthier pawn chain, and nicely placed pieces.
Wow, he takes on C5. What's he saying here?
I'm not sure about that. I like so much.
I guess he's gonna. One interesting point is that if, let's say, Black takes with the knight on C5 and White just backs up the light square bishop. If Black takes on F4, he opens up the E file and hits the E6 pawn. Right? He sort of opens up easy access for White. So maybe Grandelius is saying, all right, C5 is fine. I'm just going to back up the light square bishop and. Okay. Be careful of B4, though. B4 is coming, and this knight on C3 might be running out of squares. So we'll keep an eye on this one. The other game between Elvist and Prdojevic. We're not going to cover this game. It's boring. Let's go back. We're not going to cover that game.
What about the last board? We haven't looked at Elam. Only the moments when he already lost the game. That's when we tuned in.
Okay. I'm going to try to go find that game right now.
It's Gustav Fruta against Mr. Alan Rice.
My favorite name, Gusta Fruta.
Gustav Fruta and Grand Delicious. It clearly shows our preference for handles.
Okay, so oh wow, this is okay. This could be the game that we said that he needs to get a win. Look at this.
Wow.
I think
Look
that
how brave.
yeah, but I think it might have just been a blunder. This last move G4 just walks into knight takes G4. Did he just miss that after bishop takes, black has queen to G5, winning the
Wow.
piece back?
So he just thought that everything works, like everything is working against a 13-year-old boy. He goes
He
G4.
just plays G4 aggressively, and now he's probably deeply regretting that move right now. That's crazy.
Yes. Bishop takes queen G5, wins the piece back. And after H3, H5. That's the way to get the full piece back. Nicely done by Alam, seizing the opportunity. He's, of course, a talented boy, but we were saying that he was likely to lose most of his games, if not all his games, because he's highly overrated in every game.
Yeah, he's not the favorite in any game, but if he's going to get a win for the Gnomes, this is his chance to
Yes.
not put up a donut today. He wants to get one win against the board four from the Horses, and I think that White is just deeply regretting G4. I don't see any justification for it. He played G4, thinking he was just backing up the bishop and eventually going to gobble the E4 pawn, but now I think Black is in. By the way, I think White has to take on G4 because Queen H4 is probably an even bigger problem. So, all right, we'll keep an eye on this one. A good call, Anna. I'm glad we checked in on it. Magnus Carlsen is just already in complete control. He's up a clean pawn, completely crushing on the clock against Borachovsky. Okay, Borachovsky has some compensation temporarily because of the pressure on the E2 pawn, but somehow I don't buy it. What if Magnus just takes A8 and moves the knight? Because if you take E2, I think I'm skewering your two bishops on the E file. Or this. Just as good, actually. Rook E1.
Simply defending the pawn and then preparing to improve his pieces. The D2 knight will definitely need to be relocated.
Yeah, and the point is, everyone, black can't trade and take E2 because the rook just comes right back to E1 and we have a skewer on the E file. So this is going to be a good old-fashioned family fun by Magnus here. This is just straightforward and clean victory here. All right.
That's what we are predicting, and with that victory, and if in case Alam does not lose, but maybe he even wins, that's almost a match victory secured for the Gnomes.
Yep, and they need it. And if they win, they will leapfrog the Estonia Horses for the fourth and final playoff spot from the Eastern Division. So Magnus's team, which reached the finals last year, stays alive and tries to continue their chance of repeating that. So if you're just joining us, we have seen the Stormbringers upset the Delhi Dynamite. The Dynamite still make the playoffs as one of the top seeds, but the Stormbringers have a much better chance of not being eliminated from the playoffs here. The Riga Magicians are fighting to not be in that spot, actually, against the Oslo Trolls. And we haven't looked at a lot of those games. Let's go and check on one now, if that's okay. What's going on between the Riga Magicians and the Oslo
Magicians
Trolls?
are in a must-win situation, but the Trolls have already scored 8 points, so it's in best case for the Magicians a tie. And this is after the Trolls starting with half a point penalty for a last-minute change.
Yeah, and so they made the right decision. Sorry, I had to check Dopad and his game right at the last second. He does
sure.
win. Sorry, I was looking at any game that's under time pressure, seeing if we're about to see something exciting. But okay, where are we at?
So in case even if the Magicians die, well, then the game points matter. But the Stormbringers are not only winning the match, but they're also collecting a couple of game points. Well, this is first of all, the Magicians need to win every game that's left.
I just went over to Tom Canton's game against Urkadal, but in this game, it seems like Black is probably the only one who can win because of this outside passed A pawn, despite White having the nice centralized king here. Everybody, I think that this is bad news right now for the Magicians. I don't think that White can really win this game, and they need to win every game from here on out. So, okay, well, we'll try to keep our eye on this. Back to Magnus. People love seeing Magnus win, even if it's a pretty straightforward affair.
Yeah, and the magicians. The magicians will lose for sure. Greg is telling us because of the half-point penalty. So actually, Oslo won. Wait a second. How is this with the half a point penalty? I'm so bad at
Yep.
maths.
At this point,
Yeah, they lose
it
the
looks
match.
like Volga. So that means if we're looking at the standings,
Yeah.
very good chance. It seems almost for sure that Volga is going to switch places with the
With
Riga
the
Magicians, which
magicians.
means Riga and Oslo will be on the outside looking in for the 2019 Pro Chess League season unless they can requalify. So, big win by the Stormbringers on the last day over the top-seeded Delhi Dynamite, or one of the top seeds. And it looks like we're on pace for the Gnomes and the Horses to also do a swap, a switcheroo. So, okay. If you're just joining us, stick around. Right after this, the Central Division will begin. You will have Lawrence Trent and Women's Grandmaster Jennifer Shahadi. And of course, we also have full coverage of the Reykjavik Open over at twitch.tv/chess. If you haven't followed the Pro Chess League channel yet, do so before you go anywhere, as there will be future shows at the Pro Chess League in cases where Chess.com's coverage of other events is conflicting. So make sure you give us a follow before you go anywhere else. All right, where to go? Where to go? We got Magnus on the grind.
Magnus.
We've got let's look at Grandelius's game. He opened up the position, and it's not as direct as I said it might happen on the light squares, but it is still a thing that's on the board. That the biggest issue, and one of the things Grandelius has already done well, is open the position so that as the diagonals are freed up, Black has more and more tactical problems. And I think now he's going to gobble the d5 pawn. Maybe no. I guess knight f4 is coming. Fork. Okay. So what? So g3 maybe, play g3, who knows? Maybe queen e5, pick your flavor. I think Grandelius is going to get this one. I just like it.
If he gets this one, and Magnus also should get his game, he's a pawn up. Mr. Elam, I want to check back with Mr. Elam if he is still winning.
Wait, we got action.
Action? Where? So
Abhijit Oh, no, never mind. They're playing 3-minute chess. I'm still following Abhijit from before. Unfollow him. He's playing 3-minute chess. And he's about to lose, actually, so that's a problem. All right. Sorry. Sorry, Abhijit. All right, we're going to ignore that. And where are we going to go? We're going to stay with Magnus Carlsen. The game between Prdojevic and Elvis is getting a little bit more tricky. Still not quite as exciting as the other two.
And Mr. Elam, who is keeping his advantage, or even seizing it on the king side, he is. Let's count the soldiers.
Which game are we talking about?
Gustav Frutte against Mr. Elam Rise.
Yeah. This is a good one. He's got an attack. This is it.
Yeah, he's got an attack. He's
young little Elam. Look how adorable that little avatar is. Look how cute he is.
I know, and he's only 13.
He's so cute. I love him so much. All right. Well, so if Elam gets this win, then he'll be more than cute. He'll be part of the
Gnomes.
Gnomes.
What a serious handle for a 13-year-old, Mr. Elam.
Mr. Elam, that's right. All right. Well, yeah. Let's look at this. So let's go to the Batcave on this one. Where do we? How do we think that Black is going to get the attack and break through? Let's see if we can figure that out. Okay, maybe Black just plays simple moves here, Anna. Bring the A rook to d8.
That makes sense. Let's develop the last piece that is not doing anything.
Right.
Also, it prevents knight to d6. So I like your idea. Let's just bring the rook, and the d5 pawn is vulnerable.
Yeah, the d5 pawn is vulnerable. Now, e5 is hanging for for Black, but I don't know that it's really that big of a deal. But let's say that White does take on e5. What's the follow-up for Black?
Whoa, Greg has a brilliant idea.
Okay, what's that?
Bishop to f4. But then I saw the rest of the comments. That's why I started laughing, not because of the bishop f4 move. That's really interesting. Bishop f4.
Bishop f4. Okay.
So if pawn takes.
Pawn takes. Yeah, but here comes queen to
e. Ooh, oh no, but he takes on g3 with a check.
Okay. So queen d4 doesn't work because the queen can't checkmate if White is in check. Okay. Still, I'm not sure I buy this. Let me just say that if we take back on g3 and queen takes, I think that black might have only a draw to show for this brilliant sacrifice because the dark squares are a bit too much.
Well, it was one of the few moments when I actually liked Greg's idea.
I know, it was, as much as I love bursting Greg's bubble, I promise it wasn't just for that pleasure, right? But no, I don't know if bishop f4 is necessary. I think the idea is nice, and I guess the point is you don't really want to lose the e5 pawn before the attack starts to peter out. So what do we got there? We got a cheer. I think that this is the wrong I don't know what that cheers for, but that's over at the Chess channel. I need to remove that. Somebody just cheered 1,000 bits for Eric and Amon, who are the best thing to happen to chess in the history of mankind. So I think that's what that said. All right, but we're going to focus right here on the Pro Chess League. Let's see. How does it... Come on, Mr. Elam. We want to find a win for this.
We should make Greg's idea work, otherwise he's canceling the whole show.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I don't think it works. I think bishop f4 is just a bowl full of jelly, honestly. Queen d4.
I like it, Greg. Please.
Takes.
Please.
This is...
Can I keep my job?
I don't think so, Greg. I think unless you're into a draw, if that's what you want. But I don't know that white gets any more than that. So, all right.
People want to see Magnus. What a surprise.
Magnus. Let's do it. Magnus. Is he about to win? He just like this is one of those games where it's just not fair. I mean, it's just Magnus just absolute. Okay, the rook falls and we get a resign.
Oh.
Boruchovsky with no time on the clock blunders a rook.
Exactly.
It's good to be king.
Yeah, it was a winning position already for Magnus, simply that...
If you're Magnus, it's good to be king. So there you go. Magnus Carlsen finishes with 3.5 out of 4 on the day. For those of you who care about the full player stats, Magnus is a trendy pick on most people's fantasy teams. Who knows why? But he's going to move to 3.5 points. And the Gnomes have officially... With that win... No, they haven't officially clinched. They're close. They're close to
not
officially
yet,
clinching.
Yet. They're close.
Okay. So let's go back to Grandelius's game. Okay, now this is getting more interesting because Black has found a way to get some tricky knights, and here comes some ideas with knight f4. Actually, sorry, knight g4. Okay, Grandelius isn't interested. He wants to get the ladies off the board. I appreciate that, actually, because I think that this is the best way to make sure that you probably aren't going to lose as white. Which at this point, white is sort of playing for 2 results in the match standings.
Yeah, that's what he should do. Very smart choice by Niels.
Okay, Prdojevic and Elvist are... This might be the biggest game to watch. I mean, you did predict before coming in today that even if Magnus does his thing, which he did, finish with 3.5 out of 4, the match would probably be decided by the performances of Grandelius and Prdojevic because even if Mr. Elam wins, he's already lost 3 games today, and this is a tough one right here. I think
he played, by the way, your rook to d8 move, so not bishop f4. Even though Robert is supporting Greg's idea, so kudos to
Robert doesn't know.
Robert doing the right thing.
We have the microphone and he doesn't, so we get to say that. No, I don't think bishop f4 was any good. But okay, he gives up the e5 pawn. Maybe now he just takes h3. Maybe white didn't need to be. Maybe black doesn't need to be in a big rush. Just take h3 and. Okay, the biggest issue for... I was going to say the biggest issue for black, it was worrying about the diagonal, and I guess that's why he plays bishop g7. Now he can trade on b2. Go after the d5 pawn. All right, Elam's all right. He's just, he's got some tricks for kids. Okay, Grandelius. This is Grandelius. I mean, honestly, Elvist is just better here against Prdojevic. So this is a huge game for Borky. He needs to hold on. Because right now Elvis looks like he's showing him some old Soviet tricks here.
Old Soviet tricks.
Elvis is just better here.
I need to catch up with you and the old Soviet tricks.
He's going to transpose into an endgame where white's got the bishop pair, and he's going to try to hit the a5 pawn. The big issue for black right now is this knight on e7 is sort of just lost. If you could just pop the knight on c5, it would be a different game, because the knight on c5, controls all these critical squares. It hits the d3 pawn, but this knight on e7 is really sort of out of place over there. Not doing well.
I agree. That's a bad piece, though he is trying to claim that the
Yeah, he's trying
b5
to
will
get some counterplay.
compensate.
Okay. I could be wrong. All right, Magnus.
I'm not saying you're wrong at all. But I like White's position a lot, but he is, of course, he's doing what he has to. He's trying to create compensation for
Right.
the misplaced d7 knight, and also the g7 bishop is just behind closed doors with this e5 pawn and h6 pawn,
Right.
d6 pawn. The pawn chain is not supporting the bishop situation.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, I was just going to say, is he going to forget about playing slow and maybe try to pry open the king side? The other issue is if White can get into the light squares here, I mean, this is going to be something dangerous. But I expect Borky to play rook f8, and I don't see the immediate follow-up for White. Maybe just rook to c1 after rook f8 and try to... No, if rook c1, then Black can take on e4, and d5 is weak. So let's see. So this is going to get a little more dynamic than it was previously, and it's going to be a big one, because between this game and Grandelius, we're literally, whoa!
What's happening in Niels's game? I've just switched and I don't understand anything.
What happened? I was going to say, between this one, we've got a couple of equal games, but is Grandelius just losing now? What happened here? He's down a queen.
He sacrificed it, or he...
Well, he took on d4. He took on d4
I don't think he missed this.
and either blundered the exchange or decided that this is an okay position, but...
Both looks like a suspicious decision by Niels.
Just from a practical perspective, even when the sacrifice is mathematically okay, or let's say the engines say White is fine, these positions are almost always favoring the queen in practical chess. It's just so much easier in time pressure to have one powerful piece than it is to coordinate a couple of other pieces that frankly need coordination if they're going to compete, right? And that's huge. We've again, I don't know what happened there, but
so suddenly this is suddenly dangerous for Niels.
Yeah, this is.
What will that mean for the result in case Ottoman manages to win?
This is not. The Gnomes are not out of the woods here. I mean, I don't think Grandelius. He certainly doesn't win this game. He probably loses this game. I'm just going to say that from a practical perspective, I think the queen is that much more powerful, which means that if it's coming down to the games between the 13-year-old, and I'll just call him the 13-year-old, and this one here. Okay, Prdojevic looks like Prdojevic broke through. He's got some play on the F-file here.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, suddenly it is Borky who is playing for a win and not Niels.
Yeah. For those of you just joining us and wondering why we're mainly focused here, well, one, all of the other matches have been decided. The Trolls beat the Magicians. The Eagles and the Dynamite will both be in the playoffs, but Volga beating the Dynamite secured that they will be out of the cellar, and Riga, unfortunately for them, will need to requalify if they're going to play next year. But this match right here, I mean, this is everything for the Gnomes, right? They're not only fighting to make the playoffs, but they're not out of the woods, I don't think, as far as having to requalify. If they lose this match, that spells horrible things for the Norway team.
Certainly.
So wait, Greg is saying that Borky missed some sort of win with the move Queen E1 check earlier?
Oh.
He's saying that perhaps there was Queen E1 check before taking on E4. I'm back to the analysis board, and then taking E4 and F2 is falling. Wow, I think he's right, actually.
You mean that this time he's actually right?
I know, it's shocking to say Greg is right. I love that Greg has become the punchline of the show. It's hilarious. All right, what do we got? Where I want to find the game. This position right here, everybody, on the analysis board. I'll keep the live one live for you. But I think that Greg is right. I think this position here was a win for Black if he had played Queen E1 check and taking E4, because there's a skewer on the F2 pawn, and this is mate. I think he's right. I think Prdojevic missed a win. Now he looks like he's still winning because the breakthrough on the F-file. Okay, he's no longer in danger of losing. So as far as Prdojevic doing what he was hired to do as a free agent by Jan Ludwig Hammer. Looks like he's about to do it.
He's doing what he was hired to do.
He's doing what he was hired to do, right? He's doing his job. I mean, did that sound weird? I don't know. He's doing what he was hired to do.
No, it's true. It's true. And they were in a must-win situation, so of course it made perfect sense for the Gnomes to register yet another Grandmaster. They have 3 Grandmasters. That includes the world champion and Mr. Allen, a 13-year-old talented boy, on their last board.
So even if Niels loses, even if Grandelius loses, which I'm predicting down a queen, now getting under a minute, I think that this is a game that Ladva is going to take. So if Grandelius loses this one, the draw by Prdojevic, which is guaranteed here, no way to lose it. Maybe he wins, but it's probably a draw. It still doesn't mean the Gnomes are guaranteed. It means they're guaranteed a tied match, but they need to beat the Horses if they're going to overtake them.
And that comes down to Mr. Allen's game.
It's all down to the 13-year-old, and he's only got 20 seconds. I think that this is honestly a shocking turn of events the way this has been handled, and it makes you even more frustrated if you're a Gnomes fan, because I think Greg was right.
I know.
I think
This is
Prdojevic
crazy.
missed a win.
I'm looking at the captain's face right now. I'm using the multi-Twitch page. You can click on the link by Mubot, and there's a multi-Twitch about our stream and John Ludwig's stream. He seems to be very calm for the situation. He must be a calm guy. I'm nervous.
He's calm. This is it. I mean, will the 13-year-old... I mean, this is now a completely tricky position with only 12 seconds on the clock. Unbiasedly, is Black okay here? Probably. But with not very much time on the clock, I mean, I wouldn't take Black in this position at all.
Yeah, 5 seconds for Allen.
He sacrificed the exchange. There was no reason to do that, young sir. Play Rook D2. You didn't have to go to Sacktown. Oh, no. I think this is it. I think the Gnomes are going to fall. Now we look at Grandelius with a lot more interest. Okay, he did manage to hold. Look at that. He's not losing yet. He's got some chances here with the Rook and Knight. No, he's losing. Who am I kidding? It's okay. I think you're going to want to stop watching.
I'm just...
Hammer might be about to pull a chess bra and throw something across the room. So you might want to stop watching Hammer stream right now, because his free agent missed a win and has drawn against Jan Elvis with a win that he missed earlier. That could be the match right there, because I think
he drew from that winning position.
He drew. Okay, but wait. If Grandelius holds, then I'm wrong. If Grandelius holds, the Gnomes barely get into the playoffs. It's going to be whether Grandelius can hold this position with no time on the clock against the queen.
A point between Niels and Elam. They both had a good position. Mr. Elam is now full rook down, and he has just resigned.
He couldn't go back to H3 because H4 was coming. Elam lost.
It's Niels the only game left. He has to make a draw.
This is it. He has to make a draw, but he's getting his king in a mating net. Queen D8 is mate. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my gosh! After defending the position,
way.
The Gnomes...
I'm so sorry for being biased, but I'm an honorary Norway Gnomes member, and we have just kicked out the world champion from the Pro Chess League.
I'm not sorry for being biased. They made the finals last year, and Magnus Carlsen sells tickets, as they say. So I wanted Magnus to... That is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, congratulations to the Estonia Horses.
Congratulations to the Estonia Horses. They have done the impossible. They came back from the dead.
Unbelievable. Heading into this last round, it felt like a foregone conclusion that the Gnomes would take care of business. They are unable to do so.
Allen was winning. Niels was doing very well. Borky
Niels was better.
Winning.
Ellen was winning. And probably the biggest moment of the match was actually the one that the commissioner himself pointed out. Because honestly, all the way back to this position, again, Black was completely winning if he finds the move. Queen to E1 check, followed by taking on E4, and F2 falls. By the way, if Bishop F1 is played, it's the same thing, because when you take it, the queen has to move, and now F2 falls, followed by the bishop with mate. And the Gnomes will be on the outside looking in this postseason. The standings have not quite been updated yet, but not only... Okay, they do they do secure that they don't have to re-qualify, Anna, because
Yeah.
when the game points are updated, they will finish with a score. They will finish with a even though they tie this match, they'll finish 4-5 on the season, which will be the same score as the Stormbringers, but they will have more total game points. So the Gnomes will be in the 2019 Pro Chess League, but shocking the world today, despite Magnus Carlsen coming up with 3.5 points out of 4, the Gnomes are going to be on the outside looking in for the playoffs.
This is really, really shocking. And knowing Magnus Carlsen, I believe
Wow.
he is also blaming himself for not going 4 out of 4, because that half a point would have meant 8.5 for his team. Of course, he has played brilliant chess, a beautiful masterpiece against Elvis. But still, he's a perfectionist. I'm pretty sure that he himself is disappointed about not getting 100%. And the team, so many missed chances in the last round. 3 games
Unbelievable.
that were
Honestly,
going well for them.
just super disappointing. He goes 3.5 out of 4, but you could decide whoever had the half point that they should have gotten. The point is that the Gnomes shock us all by not taking care of business in a match where they were heavily favored against the Horses. But the full truth is we also have to give love and credit with the standings being updated to the Horses. They did. They managed to do the unthinkable today. They pulled the upset just by holding a draw. They had a huge upset, and they will be in the playoffs. The Gnomes will be on the outside looking in. The Horses, the standings are not totally updated yet. I guess I need to refresh the page.
Just refresh, and Greg has been updating it constantly. So, of course, once again, shout out to Greg Shahadi. I hope that I'm beating you in fantasy chess, but you're great, working 20 hours a day for the Pro Chess League. So, congratulations once again to the teams that qualified. It's going to be Armenia versus Estonia in the playoffs. Armenia has draw odds. So, in case of 8-8, they move forward. And DYNAMITE versus Movers, there the Delhi Dynamites have the draw odds.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at what our pre- and post-match standings were. As we can see here, we talked first about the Gnomes taking on the pre-match odds. Had the Gnomes favored, as you can see here, everybody. The 8-8 tie was not the most likely result, given that the Gnomes brought their big guns. They had Carlsen, they had Grandelius, they had Prdojevic, but in the end, that is exactly what we got. What happened between the Eagles and the Movers? Well, the live standings show us that the Eagles did take care of business. They seem to be the team playing their best head into the postseason. We'll see if they can keep that up. They were the pre-match underdogs actually against the Movers, but they took care of business as they've been doing most of the season. Yes. The Trolls were slight underdogs against the Magicians, but they proved those stats way wrong. So, unfortunately for Matt, that's going to hurt his fantasy team, as we said. His fantasy based purely on the stats. We see the Trolls dominated, even though they were the slight underdogs. And finally, the DYNAMITE and the Volga Stormbringers. It was a pretty close one. The Stormbringers, despite being the worst team on record, actually did bring the stronger team on paper. They were favored, and they took care of business. So, all right, Anna.
This is just such a shocking end for the Pro Chess League. We saw the Norway Gnomes halfway in the playoffs already. They only needed half a point from 2 games that they were winning before. So actually, those 3, Niels Grandelius had a comfortable, slightly better position. Prdojevic had a winning position. Like he had a tactical combination that would have won the game. And Mr. Allen, he was also winning. Out of those 3 games, they scored half a point only.
Super, super shocking. I mean, that's just the only way to put it. I know you guys think we're just trying to play up the drama, but it's dramatic, and it's surprising that Magnus Carlsen's team will not be in the playoffs this year. Definitely something we didn't expect. So as we get ready for Jen and Lawrence, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's been here the whole time. Thanks to everybody. I'm just reading chat names now. We got Books Are Nice, Crypto Chess, Smarter Chess. Sorry about your stats, buddy. The Commish, and of course Chess Bay, along with many others. So about 1,600 of you will be rolling over to watch Jen and Lawrence, who will have the call for the Central Division. And so don't go anywhere. They're coming right up. Anna, a lot of fun. I hope you didn't miss your Miss Team Ginger too much. We had a blast today, and
it was a lot of fun, and it's a different team when I'm paired with you. I'm missing, there's just one thing that I'm missing, because I was expecting so much that at some point you would start singing, Danny.
You know what?
That was my dream.
You need to let it go. So let's let it go and drop out of the Disney song and let you know that Jen and Lawrence are coming right up. Bye, everybody.
Bye.